call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, and the time is 5:31. And also note that Miss Chidgey jumped when I hit the gavel. And also note that today is our board secretary, Miss Lisa Thompson's birthday, so happy birthday.
And tomorrow is Miss
And tomorrow is Miss Marcia Landry's birthday. We're loading them up. August. All right. Item 2, presentation. A, Internal Audit Department Quarterly Board Update. Miss Lisa Shoesmith.
Alrighty, good evening. I am here this evening to present to you my quarterly update. We last met April 28th, I believe it was. So it's been a little over a quarter. I know summertime is always quite difficult to get together, so I appreciate your time tonight. I believe you would have received kind of my standard one-pager that I provide to you that talks about the audit work that myself and my team have done since I've last updated you. And as we have in the past, I think there are about 8 projects or items that I'm happy to discuss tonight. I make notation on there for you if there's some particular details that are necessary. I do believe we have executive session reserved to answer those type of questions. And so without further ado, we could just get started and go through the list if you'd like. Okay. Alrighty, so first on the list, we have the annual employee conflict of interest review. Any questions about that one? Great results this year. I feel like good response. I was very pleased with it. So,
Any questions for Ms. Shoesmith on that one? All right.
Okay.
Move on.
Next is our annual review of our controlled resources, essentially our inventory, both capital assets and smaller assets like computers, monitors, those things. That's a standard review we do every year. Any questions on that one? Seeing none, I'll move past it. Next on the line is a summary of those unannounced campus visits that we did all of last school year. Our last time we were together, I provided you some information about that, and this is that summary that I promised that I would send out to you regarding those 80 visits. Hopefully you saw some good detail there regarding information that we gathered. I'll say as a little caveat, a lot of what you see in that report, I am about to share out to all the principals at their first principal meeting of the year. Mr. Jimenez was very kind to allow me some time there at the meeting to really empower those principals and budget managers to know of those key things that we're hoping they can look for that we found from those visits. So any questions about those now that you got to see a little bit more detail? Oh, we can go back in the back if you need to as well.
If
Sure.
you have any questions, we can save
Sure.
that for the
I'll make a note of
executive
that. Anybody else? Okay. Next down the line is our annual warehouse inventories. And this is work that we do for our external auditors. So we look at those major warehouses, our food warehouse, copy, general warehouse, and their massive inventories, huge $1 million amount of value, and pull a sample and look for those things. So I know the formatting of those reports is a little different. That's something that is specific to how the external auditors would like that to look. But hopefully it's easy and readable for you. Again, good results. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Did we have a massive influx into the warehouse, prior to the school? And so you audited that, or when was this audit?
When is it conducted? Yes, ma'am.
Right.
It's always at the end of the school year.
Okay.
And there, I could list the dates for you, but they're right at the end of the school year. Specifically, food nutrition. Maybe you're asking about. That's the one that had some just minor findings. All of our warehouses have to be shut down and, well, not shut down, but their activity has to be stagnant for us to be able to test. You can imagine they cannot be filling orders while we're trying to count. So we're there the day before they do a count, and then everything is paused. No orders come in, no orders go out, and they run a full report for us that should be, in all intents and purposes, accurate for the time frame that we're there. And we go behind them and do a secondary count and look at everything. And then they start back up in action the following business day.
Do we do, what do we do with our inventory? Do we make sure that maybe use that up first and then get in more inventory? Or do we stock ourselves completely before, school starts? How do we do that? First in, first out, because we're dealing with food. Am I allowed to ask that question in this?
By all means. I just don't know. I'm not the subject matter expert to know about their ordering, so I wouldn't be able to answer that for you, but we could definitely reach out to Food Nutrition and find out that information.
I'm just trying to figure out if we have any waste, or anything. Maybe we have spoilage because maybe the cans or whatever that we're using, goes bad over a period of time if we keep shoving product in front of it, I'd kind of like to know about that. If that's possible. I don't know if that's possible.
Are you asking if on this agenda item we can talk about our process for using up inventory?
No.
No.
Is there a way that I can find it? Just even an email would be great.
Would that, yes.
That would be sufficient. Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Of course,
Thank you.
Of course. Anything else about the inventory, or would you like to? Okay, we'll go to the next one. The next one on the list is a review that we did of the Adult and Community Education Department. That's a large, broad department with about 5 subgroups, if you would, underneath it. So you have that report. Any questions there? Yes, ma'am.
When I said I needed to have questions answered, it was actually on this.
Okay, sure.
I was confused, as I thought we were going the whole thing in bulk, so.
Oh, gotcha, no worries. Okay, so in executive session, yes, ma'am, happy to. Since we'll be back there talking about it, let's just go on to the next one. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Real quick, I think I can ask this out here with the number of accounts that are tied to that.
Yes.
We don't have to go into specifics of them, but has that always been we've had? Is it like 5 accounts or whatever?
Organizations, yes, sir, that's under
within
them.
that.
So it's an umbrella of the Adult and Community Education Department. Under that falls Ken Elementary, Ken Middle School, Adult Education, Community Education, and then a small program for GED. That's been the case. I reviewed them 5 or 6 years ago, so at least 10 years and beyond, at least 12 years my time here. I don't know the history of it. Mr. Jimenez might be able to speak more to the history of it, but yes, sir.
Sir, at least since 2016, we've had those different organizations.
Sure,
I'm aware of.
Yeah, that was my assumption, but it just,
Sure.
I guess, when you see it in print, it
Right,
it
it's
brings it like,
large.
oh, wait a minute, yeah, we actually have
It's large, yes.
multiple, okay. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Mhm. Anything else on that one right now, or? Okay. All right, next down the list. As you can tell, my team has been very busy, so sorry, the list is long. Next on the list is Career and Technical Education, our CTE department. Did a nice review of that department as well. Any questions there? No? Okay.
Good on that one.
And then the last one on the list is actually for this fiscal year. This, I don't know if you could note that on your reports, but because we're here now, the ball is still rolling. We're still actively working. And so this one was for instructional materials adoption process, an advisory project that I conducted regarding that adoption process and the accounting for that. No questions?
Doesn't look like it. It
Okay.
looks like, I mean, other than I know we probably have
Out
some
here. Sure.
questions in executive session, but
Sure thing.
seemed like a lot of good, relatively clean.
Yes, I think
reports.
so. I would say in general, most are, some small, nothing real earth-shattering findings, just some things to note, but in all, I felt pretty good about all the reports.
Good deal.
To move down the update, just briefly, as we always do, we continuously update our fraud hotline. We've had one hotline complaint from April till now. I'm happy to, since we will be going back there, if you want me to tell you a little more about it. It was an actionable item that I acted on myself, and I have a resolution to it. So it was a good complaint that came in. I mean, we don't want them, but it was a good complaint. So that was the only one there. No, obviously, since we last met in late April, no campus visits. We had completed those visits already, and purposely before April, May, the end of the year, and testing, we wanted to be done well in time to be out of the campuses here when they're in testing in the end of the school year. So nothing new has been completed. My wonderful audit technician will be hitting the pavement next Tuesday. She's getting prepared now, so we'll be starting up and doing those visits again next week. We gave them a 2-week little reprieve to get the year started, and then we'll be out there doing our visits again. And I've already warned them at their meeting last week, so they're ready to go. And then in progress, you can see what we already have, what work my team and I are producing right now. In fact, tomorrow you will receive the report on the superintendent's contract. I've finished that, and that'll be issued tomorrow. Currently, we're in the depths of doing testing on our annual purchasing card audit. That's something each year we pull a sample of those P card transactions and really deep dive into those expenditures. So actively testing that takes a few months. There's hundreds and hundreds of transactions to look through. Also doing a campus audit currently right now at Jackson Middle School. This campus had a change in leadership, a significant change in leadership, both in the bookkeeper role and the principal role and AP's role as well. They had to, so we wanted to make sure and get out to them first and help them out. So we're actively reviewing them right now. And then in the planning phase, like I mentioned, my audit technician is planning her campus visits. They will be starting shortly. I personally am in the process now of a pet project of mine that I've thankfully have time to do now, and I'm beginning work on doing an inventory of all of our booster clubs. I'll look forward to providing you more details about that. But that's something that I'm working on and will be introducing to the principals. I've already have the Executive Director of Fine Arts, GROTC, and Athletics working with me in that regard to really wrap our arms around that. So coming soon there. And then lastly, in the planning stages for Reagan High School, new bookkeeper at that school, and they came around on their turn as well. So we're about to start that. And then you can see in the future athletics coming. We have a new executive director there, lots of campus changes. So we have many campus audits on the docket. So we already have a full fall in front of us there.
One thing I did want to bring up is that related to I heard some feedback for the Booster Club luncheon that you went to, that there were some people very appreciative of you coming and presenting, because that hasn't happened usually in the past. And so I think it was good for those, especially some new presidents of organizations that feel comfortable that, there's somebody helping them through that if they need to, and helping look at things if they're stepping into a role that they haven't had before.
Most definitely. They're parent volunteers. They're doing a very big job, and thank you for that. I've looked forward to going and presenting at that meeting for years, and I was very appreciative of Mr. Govan, Ms. Shore, invited me to be there. So it was a great turnout.
All right, do we have any, Ms. Landry?
I just have one question
Sure.
on the schools that were consolidated. Did you do audits on them as we closed out the year, or is there a plan to just finalize those audits since they're major changes, obviously? For
sure, most definitely. Many of our audits that we do throughout the year will review their data. For example, the P-card audit, they're in that sample, we're pulling transactions from there. All of their documentation from all 3 campuses are housed in my department currently. We raised our hand and chose to keep all the documentation with us here at central office, and I'm just keeping it safe in case anybody needs it. So we have it there as we need. And yes, so multiple of these reviews that we do throughout the year, we'll look at those 3 campuses' historical data, if you would, from last year. I did not have in the review, you'll see in the audit plan for the next year, to specifically do a campus audit of those. A big part of the campus audit is going there and doing things actively with them. So we will definitely tweak that, and it will be essentially doing a desk audit, if you would, just looking at historical documentation for them to ensure, whatever they had there was closed up nicely. And so yes, ma'am, they'll be included for sure.
Okay, and then are pieces of that transferred to the schools that are receiving, or is it just a clean closeout of the books for those?
A lot of what we look at for a campus audit specifically looks at their student and campus activity funds. Elementary schools have very minimal campus funds and student funds. They don't have all the clubs and everything like a high school would. Middle school has a small amount, not kind of a medium amount. And I can definitely work with budget to know how that was transferred. I'm not privy, I apologize, I do not know at this time how that money was split up. Could definitely find that out. I don't know if they sent that to each campus to follow those kiddos. I would obviously imagine so, but I don't know the exact division of that. But yes, I'm happy to take a look at it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions for Ms. Shoesmith? All right. At this time, the board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 5:48 p.m. All right. The board will now convene an open session, and the time is 6:47 p.m. Item 5, new business for possible board action. A, internal audit. 1, possible action regarding approval of internal audit plan for 2025-2026. Ms. Shoesmith.
All righty. Good evening once again. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here this evening. We're going to turn the page we just talked about last year, and now I'm here to talk about this coming school year, which has already begun. As I spoke earlier, we've already hit the ground running. You've seen what, a couple of reports come through. So I'm here to present that plan and ask for your approval. We're going to cover a couple things quickly, briefly. Just why do we have to have an audit plan? Why do I bring that to you for approval? What does it look like to develop that plan? And then going into the details of that proposed plan for the 25-26 school year. You'll see it differentiated between the required audits that we do every year, either for ourselves or for the external auditors, as well as that additional audit coverage that myself and my team are able to provide with the additional time allotted. So there are various guiding bodies, laws, policies that mandate that an internal audit department, if a Texas school district in the state of Texas has an internal audit department like we do, we are required to build an audit plan annually and have that reviewed and approved by the Board of Trustees. Texas Education Code states that as well. Guiding bodies not only over school districts, but all entities, the Government Accounting Office, the GAO, as well as the Institute of Internal Auditors. I've talked to you all a lot about them as well, the IIA. They are the world global standards that all internal audit departments act under. They also say that an audit plan has to be prepared and approved and worked on throughout the fiscal year. The plan provides us is that essentially, exactly what it looks like, a structure to our year, a way to detail the work that is the team is going to produce throughout the fiscal year, and also provides the executive staff and superintendent the opportunity to request input into that and to know what to expect throughout the year as far as that plan goes. So developing that plan looks pretty similar each year. I always look to determine the total auditable days, how many days I take all of my staff, how many days we have minus any holidays, training, everything that we have. So our actual work days that we have that we could be out there pounding the pavement, looking at campuses and departments. I obtain a list of any key changes to our key personnel. This year we had a pretty, comparatively to past years, we had a good significant amount of change in our key personnel, both on the budget manager side as well as in the bookkeeper side. I get input from executive staff, cabinet, and the superintendent, allow our executive directors any input if they want something in their particular area to be reviewed. I take that into consideration. And then I plug all those into the formula that you'll see on the next slide to essentially create a risk structure, a risk ranking for everything. Prioritize our work, looking at that risk ranking, and have to draw a line in the sand essentially on the volume that we can look at throughout the school year. These are those factors in the point values that are assigned. For example, almost down to the bottom there, time elapsed since prior audit. You're going to see how this impacted the audit plan this year regarding our campus audits. We'll talk about that here more in a second on the ranking, but due to the sheer volume of campuses that we have and the size of the audit department, we cannot audit every campus every year. It's just not feasible. And so sometimes because they were just audited, we're not going to look at them again. We need to look at a different campus. So we'll talk about that in the next section. So again, looking at those rankings, I prioritize the overall need. Higher numbers is a more risky risk factor, and they're given priority on the plan. I always build in extra time for fraud hotline complaints. Executive staff may come and say, I have a situation. So there's extra time allotted in there specifically for me to be able to do those one-off kind of projects that arise unexpectedly. And for, unfortunately, the emergence of fraud, theft, waste, and abuse throughout the year, it could alter the plan. There may be something that emerges that is so important to look at that something kind of gets bumped down the line, if you would. So we already covered this, just so we have it here. This is the full scope of work that my department completed last year with those final ones that we talked about this evening. So thank you again for your support, and for my team. They, as I always say, we're small but mighty, and we work really hard to tackle all of the different areas that we look at each year. So pleased to say we completed our complete review or a complete audit plan last year with the addition of the 80 campus visits. So we really upped our game. I was happy about that. And then what we're here for tonight, the proposed audit plan. So as I mentioned, 2 sections, they're required audits. So each year you will see us review the superintendent's contract, compensation, benefits, expenses. There's a standard review that I'm conducting currently now. The purchasing card program, conflict of interest, inventory, those type of things. Those will be standard things that you see each year on the plan. The extra time that we have in there is allotted to these others. And so campus audit, like I mentioned, you're going to see us committing to 6 audits this year, 3 high school, 3 middle schools. These are those with the most significant amount of key personnel changes. And they bubble up to the top on that risk ranking, like I mentioned, due to the high volume of money, the cash handling, just the need on their campus versus an elementary school that maybe doesn't have the volume of money there that causes them to be audited. As well, continuing those unannounced cash counts. Of course, we're going to look at things differently. We don't want to cookie cutter do the same thing each year. So we're tweaking, what that looks like, what the questionnaire looks like, maybe focusing on a few things. My audit technician currently right now is devouring and kind of reviewing all of last year's data, gathering her list of kind of like red light, yellow light, green light, if you would, and those that we feel needed a visit sooner than others, due to their visit they received last year. Maybe we had some very actionable things that we hope for them to accomplish, and we want to revisit quickly and see if they were able to do that. So she's being very targeted in when she goes to which one, who she hits first, things like that. So she's preparing those visits now. The separate section there, I put kind of under the lump of financial and operational compliance. These are your typical, like you see, where we're going to look at budget. We're going to look at their spending, their expenditures. And in both of these departments, we had key personnel changes. Athletics department, obviously the program is huge. We could look at only the athletics program for the entire year and keep ourselves busy. So I'm very excited to work with Mr. Govan and his team, and whenever that takes off. As well, library services. This was the only request I had for an audit this year. So there is a new director of library services, and they requested a review of their department. And with that, coupled with their other risk ranking, they rose to the top there. So we're able to look at them as well. And then on the consultative side, like I mentioned, sometimes the advisory kind of consultative role that we look at. You've already seen the report there for the instructional materials allotment. I've already conducted that. I mentioned briefly earlier talking about this inventory project. If you would, I just want to let you know that's coming. I'm speaking to the principals soon about that to really get a handle on and have a good inventory and list of our booster clubs throughout the school district. And then, in addition, as we spoke of earlier, I'm doing that advisory role of really stepping up training, presentations, and trying to get out there and get the at-bats for that to continue to be out there and training and being public in that way. And then continual fraud surveillance with the hotline as well as our visits. And that completes the plan. I'm happy to answer questions, and I would ask for your approval of the plan this year. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Shoesmith. Appreciate the good work, and for you and your team, it's a lot, and y'all have done a really good job the last few years getting us organized. Any questions from Ms. Shoesmith on the plan for 25-26? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the proposed internal audit plan for the 2025-2026 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Item 6, executive session. A, personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, proposed recommendations for termination, Chapter 21 term contract employee, and the time is 6:57 p.m. The board will now convene in open session, and the time is 7:14 p.m. If no other trustees have any objections, I would like to move item 10 to the next order of business, which would be A, Board Policy 1, possible action regarding participation of non-enrolled students in University of Interscholastic League, Board Policy FD Local. Does anybody have an objection to that?
No objection.
One objection. Do we have to do matters from executive session first?
Oh, yes, ma'am, we do. Thank you for the reminder. Skipped over that one. Item 8, matters from executive session. A, personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee. Do I have a motion to approve as presented to us?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Now, if no one has any objections, I'd like to hear item 10, Board Policy FD Local. Before we get into that, we had 3 people signed up to speak. Let me give you my little spiel real quick. Trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the This portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised during the district's grievance policies, 2, a personnel action, 3, a student disciplinary matter, 4, a complaint about a particular student, or 5, pending litigation. With that, Ms. Lisa Thompson, our board secretary, will call your number, and she will also keep your time for your 3 minutes at the microphone.
Number 1.
I'm going to go fast. Okay. All right. To the NEISD School Board, I am writing as a parent and active member of our local community to express my strong support for the SB 401 and to urge the board to adopt policies that allow homeschool students to participate in UIL activities in our district. SB 401 provides an opportunity for homeschool students to engage in UIL activities through their local public schools. This bill will help ensure that all Texas students, regardless of their educational choice, have access to publicly funded extracurriculars. I believe that adopting this policy locally would bring significant benefits to our students, schools, and the broader community. For example, for access for all local students, homeschool families contribute to our public school system through the same property taxes that support UIL programs, yet they currently lack access to those opportunities. SB 401 ensures that all students in our district, whether educated at home or in public schools, can benefit equally from these activities, enriching educational experiences. Participation in UIL events ranging from athletics and academics to fine arts offers invaluable opportunities for personal growth, leadership, and social development. Homeschool students are eager to contribute their talents and engage with their peers in these vital experiences, and SB 401 provides that means for them to do so. It is cost neutral. One of the key advantages of SB 401 is that it is cost neutral for our district. Homeschool students would be required to meet the same eligibility standards as public school students and follow the same UIL rules. Their participation would not affect district funding or enrollment numbers, as they would not be counted in student attendance or staffing requirements. This means the district can expand access to UIL without any additional financial burden. To opt in means to receive extra funding. And upholding school choice while supporting public education, the SB 401 is aligned with the values of school choice, which our state has long supported. It also allows our district to demonstrate a commitment to inclusivity and public education by ensuring that every student has the opportunity to grow and succeed in extracurricular programs. I respectfully ask that NEISD School Board consider adopting policies that allow homeschool students to participate in UIL events as outlined by SB 401. By doing so, our district will enforce its commitment to fostering academic excellence and community engagement without any negative financial impact. Thank you for your time, your service, and your continued dedication to our students and our educational system.
Thank you.
Number 2.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm grateful I get the chance to speak today. My name is Darren Huddleston. I'm currently considered a non-enrolled student, as Bill SB 401 specifies. But last year, I was enrolled at Claudia Taylor Johnson High School and participated in the marching band and concert band for 2 years. I'm in a military family. My dad is a colonel in the Air Force at BAMC, and last fall I was told that my family and I would likely need to move the summer before my senior year. As a sophomore that hadn't thought about my future, except that I wanted to succeed, that was a huge scare. That spring, I really struggled in school for many reasons, but especially because I was torn between continuing the activity that I loved, in which I had created so many amazing relationships, or do what I felt was best for my future academically and where I felt I belonged. Today was my first day taking classes at Northeast Lakeview Community College, and honestly, it was an amazing experience that I can see myself thriving in. But I also got messages from the people I had spent my high school and even middle school years with in band telling me, "I miss you, bro. It's not the same without you, and the trumpet section needs you back." Growing up in a family of former band members and band supporters in this district, I have always wanted to be a part of such an amazing community. And although my circumstances draw me to other things academically, I can still remember the accomplishment and unity I felt watching and participating in the CTJ marching band. Although I'm growing up fast in my education, I don't want to let go of the thing that gives me those feelings. I can only tell y'all my story, but I can say there are other kids that can benefit not only from the opportunities that activities can give, but also the community and friends they can give as well. I know a lot of people can be swayed by the unknown that is homeschool kids, but I know that homeschoolers aren't any different than enrolled students. They're the same kids that want to make friends and be a part of something with their peers, but also learn in an environment that works for them and allows them to succeed in their education. I'll close with this. If I'm a good contributor to a program in which the directors say, we are a big family, why wouldn't you want me to stay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I am Darren's mother, Kristen Huddleston, and I value Darren's participation in the marching band program as well as the opportunity it provides for parent involvement in the NEISD community. I would like to share the perspective of our family as a marching band family. Over the past 9 years, we have had a range of opportunities from delivering mulch to fundraiser supporters to laundering marching band uniforms. We have enjoyed every CTJ football game as well as assisting incoming families to learn the ropes. I have appreciated the enhanced connection with the community. I'm sure Darren recalls being in elementary school and heading up to the band pad on Saturday mornings to paint props or driving out to a family business of a fellow band family to build and paint ramps. We have found contributing to the band program to be a way to get involved in the larger community and make connections we would have missed otherwise. Other positive aspects of allowing unenrolled students to participate in NEISD is the added support in the stands, where both their voices and their ticket purchases will be added to the NEISD programs. We attend all CTJ football games as a family, which we love, and as well as marching competitions. Darren's 4 grandparents fly in from out of state every year to support the marching band, usually staying for as long as 3 weeks to attend competitions and football games. Darren's grandparents appreciate that this gives them something to talk about with their grandchildren, and they love bonding over, quote, growing our grandchildren. I see supporting unenrolled student participation in UIL activities as a powerful way for NEISD to facilitate a strong sense of community and allow for more families to support NEISD schools. I spoke with Tyler ISD Athletic Director Sam Gillespie. He reports that over the past 2 years, even with participants coming from other nearby districts, we haven't had a bad experience. We haven't had any problems. We understand that many unenrolled students cannot immediately benefit from being allowed to participate, but in Darren's case, the CTJ marching band already has a spot waiting for him. The decision before the NEISD School Board will determine if he will be allowed to continue in the program or be required to leave the program for his final year of eligibility. I believe that under Dr. Micah and the school board's leadership, we can lead the field in building community and modeling implementation of this policy that reflects our district's mission to provide safe, supportive, and equitable learning environments, serve as centers for community involvement, develop and promote positive relationships through communication, involvement, and partnerships with the community, and use best practices in managing district resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Micah, this is your item, so take it
Yes,
away.
sir. Thank you, Mr. President. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, if you will amuse me for a little bit, I'm going to give you a lot of things that I've learned over time and kind of explain to you how I got to where I am this evening with the recommendation that's in front of you. So, I've been in education for a while. And quite frankly, in 2021, so that would have been the 87th legislature, I remember this happening, but quite frankly, it didn't get a lot of oxygen in the room that year. So this was back in 21, House Bill 547. It was brought by Representative Frank, And I think at that time, a lot of things didn't go around, as you heard some of the speakers tonight, because what they talk about in that bill is non-enrolled student. And then it tells you, and it directs you actually to a section of code, 29.916A/ parentheses 1 from a non-public school, at which time they then describe that non-enrolled means homeschool child. I was on I was the superintendent then, and in fact, Mr. Byer, you were around, and I actually brought a recommendation to not allow homeschool participation at that time. So I've gone back and really read through, and just for the board and for those that are listening, I would like to just read a part of this bill because I think this is important. So it describes a non-enrolled student who seeks to participate or participates in a league activity on behalf of a school is subject to the following relevant policies that apply to students enrolled in the school. 1, registration for league activities. 2, age eligibility. 3, any applicable fees associated with it. 4, they have to have insurance. 5, transportation requirements. 6, physical conditions, so they still have to go through a screening. 7, the qualifications in order to do it. In other words, if you're in a program and you need to try out, you got to meet those qualifications. The responsibilities, event schedules, standards of behavior, and performance. In other words, everything that we ask a child that's enrolled in our schools right now to be. So no different. It says a non-enrolled student may only participate in a league activity for the school in the school district that the student would be eligible to attend based on the student's residential address. In the law, it was very clear in there because what they were concerned about, from speaking to Mr. Lopez, is recruiting and building super teams or super programs of students around. So they have also put in place some pieces there. It also states in this law, as a condition, and these things still apply today, as a condition of eligibility to participate in a league activity during the first 6 weeks of a school year, a non-enrolled student must demonstrate grade-level academic proficiency on any national recognized norm reference assessment instrument, such as the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, Stanford Achievement Test, California Achievement Test, or Comprehensive Test of Basic Skills. I spoke to Mr. Lopez earlier today. That is a nationally normed assessment, not our STAR test. All right? And then it goes on to say, after the first 6 weeks of a school year, the parent or person standing in parental relation has to provide us the grades, and so forth and so on. So whoever's providing those. Then, in 23, there was an amendment made. This amendment was actually was House Bill number 3708. And this was by Representative Buckley, who's now the chair of the Education Committee, who then explained again and updated this code to then include, hey, by the way, if you allow homeschool students to participate, to an annual allotment of $1,500 per league activity in which the non-enrolled student participates. So in this case, if you thought of a student who wanted to participate in multiple UIL activities, you would draw down, because this is actually in the foundation school program, so it is budgeted for by the state. That's the foundation school program is what gives us our M&O funds, is if a child signed up for 3 UIL activities, you would draw down $4,500. All right? There was another piece of cleanup here by Representative Frank that really doesn't do much. But at that point when these laws were passed, you really needed to vote once. So the board voted back then. We included a policy. It was an FD that did not allow it. This past 89th session, there was, again, another touch, and it's now Senate Bill 401 that comes back. And what it does is it now requires the Board of Trustees each year to vote on whether to include non-enrolled students into it. And again, I want you to be clear, non-enrolled is homeschool. It's not private school or anything else out there. It is only strictly to homeschool. And then it just built some clarification around geographic proximity, because again, what they are trying to make certain here is that you're not recruiting kids from all over to come in. So when this came back and it bubbled up on my radar, I wanted to stand and take a look, and these folks to my right can tell you, with the way, and Miss Caldwell was actually with me, and I was listening to the CEO of USAA and the CEO of HEB talking about change and the rate at which things are happening in the world today. And they said, change has always been around. It's the frequency and the acceleration that's happening that is unprecedented. I say that because I've directed my staff, folks, things are changing so much. We too need to stop and look at everything we're doing and the way that we're doing it and see, maybe we put this in place last year, but does it still matter now? So with that, because I believe in modeling it to them, I stepped back and started taking a look. So I actually used some of my resources to start reaching out to some homeschool parents because I wanted to hear from them, because I began this journey first with meeting with Mr. Govan and Ms. Shore and some of the people that they assembled, because I wanted to hear from our own people about what do they think about this law. And I would say it was about 50-50 split, more or less. Folks that say, look, I think we should. Some folks said they didn't believe it should happen. But what I did listen to is kind of their interpretation of what they thought might happen and why people choose homeschool and don't. I never profess to ever understand other people unless I've walked in those shoes, so I pulled some homeschool parents together. And I started having individual conversations regarding about what that was. And so what I heard is, quite frankly, I think I spoke to 6. I heard 6 different, including some of our speakers this evening. Nobody did it for the same reason. And all of them did it, from what I could tell anyway, is based on what they believed was best for their child. And so from listening to that, I understood also that there is quite a bit of misinformation around these bills and how they operate, thinking that they're unfair, that somehow a homeschooled child is given an advantage over a student who's enrolled in our school. As I just clearly read to you in the bill, it was never designed to give any unfair advantage to anyone. So I began with that and speaking to them, as well as some of our parents in our schools right now. And with some mixed results. Some people have some very passionate beliefs in this. And so I want to start with helping you all see some things that I'm trying to relook at stuff. Any of you ever attend any of our summer feeding programs this summer? Anybody do it? By the way, non-enrolled students were there. Just so you know. We never ask. During COVID, and I spoke about this, I was very proud that out of all the area districts, we fed the most kids. Never asked them where they went to school. Because they were kids, and by gosh, we need to do right by them. Any of you attend the back to school bash? They got haircuts, never asked where they were. The thing that I'm so proud about in this district is we've always been about taking care of our kids. And our kids live in our district, whether they come to our schools or not. We open our facilities after hours. We built tracks in a 2015 bond for our community. Homeschool parents and children are our community. They are. I did take a look, though, because the one thing I don't want to do is make a change anytime and upset programming and things that are going on. Just so you all know, I spoke to Mr. Govan and Ms. Shore. Mr. Govan, by his count, is 24 different UIL activities. So that's girls and boys and all the different sports that he oversees. Ms. Shore and I spoke, that is 30 different programs for her. Dance, cheer, all the different academic UIL. I say that because this is quite a large change to make something like that work immediately. And so looking at all of that, and what I've come to understand from talking to people is, I'll just be frank, and you've seen my recommendation, I believe we should allow non-enrolled students to participate. But I think from my standpoint, we need a year to get it right. because I've never believed in doing anything in this district and doing it half. For instance, when we consolidated schools, if you think about it, and I will use you all at the last update we gave, which was disappointing, I know, to Miss Shelton. You all were shocked that everything was already in motion at all those schools that were consolidated, and things were moved and we were fully operational. Because, folks, we do things right here. I don't care what everybody else does. I care about Northeast, and I care about the community that I live in and where I reside, and I want to do it right. I believe with a bit of time, we can do it right. We can do it right because we already would exclude all sorts of kids, because dance and cheer aren't going to open up their doors tomorrow, folks. Those days we tried out in, Julie, March? Yes, sir. March. So that's not going to be accessible anyway. All sorts of programs are already going on and already tried out. By giving us a year one, we can get our people right. Mr. Govan, Ms. Shore, and I, Mr. Jimenez, it's Rudy, we can all work together to build a program and to go out, because one of the things that I heard from several homeschool parents is, boy, it's going to take a lot of work on your part to communicate to parents what this is and isn't. Because, folks, if there's a band class, you got to show up to band class. And yes, you're going to get a grade in band class. And that does count towards no pass, no play. You are not going to, your $1,500 that the district draws down does not cover your cheer fees. That is not what that's designed for. So there is a lot of education on the system's part, myself, Ms. Shore, Mr. Govan, and Mr. Jimenez, in order to accurately convey to our community the do's and the don'ts around it, and to make certain that we adequately advertise and communicate, not just to our parents internally, but to those non-enrolled, I'll use the Bill's language, students, to make certain that when those tryouts happen, they can make it too, and all of those pieces. I want to let you know, I'm going to get off my soapbox here in a second, but I'm going to give you a couple of things. One, you may ask, well, how many non-enrolled students do we have in our district? Well, the best number I can get is from the last census data, which I can tell you isn't accurate, but it's close. So we took, and Brandy did a great job, Merriman. What I can take a look at is there are approximately 2,700 students in our district that self-report from their families that they're non-enrolled in our schools. I would venture a guess that is higher than that, because I can look at the number they report for us and that number is incorrect. So I'm going to guess that that is a self-reporting requirement. I also looked around at other districts that have done it. They haven't reported any problems as they have done it. Last is, I've got to tell a story that our Phil told me. So Philip Flynn works with Miss Shore. So a couple years ago, we advertised for an orchestra camp. And we put it online, and we just advertised it. And lo and behold, we had a few homeschool kids apply. Well, we weren't sure how to deal with that, we being Phil and the group, because it didn't exclude them, and it wasn't UIL. It was just they wanted to pay the fee and they wanted to come and participate. So they let them in and thought, well, let's give it a shot. There were no problems. Zero. In fact, they said the kids were well behaved, the parents complied, and did everything. Now, did they come back the next year? No. But they got a great experience. Again, folks, I got into this whole business that we're in because I care about people like that young man who spoke. Deeply. Deeply. About doing right. I don't care what kid it is, or where they come from, or where they go to school. I care that they get the best that we have to offer. And I love the fact that a young man is dying to come back to one of our programs because he knows it's a premier program. That's good stuff. And we have a lot of great programs. It is not, my belief, it is not going to do any horrible thing to any one of our students that are in a school today, other than expand and bring yet another, which we have always been about, a diverse belief and set of systems in our schools, which we will get it yet even again by incorporating those families in. And so I know that there are people that have fears, that wonder the what if. The great news for you, ladies and gentlemen, is you can open it a year, and every year you got to vote on it anyway. So we can bring you back simply a report that says, here's the number of kids that took advantage. Here's what we heard. Make a decision again. What do you think? But the fear, and that's what I hear from so many who don't want to do this, is fear. I've never run by fear, folks, ever. And I'm not going to start today. I think that after speaking to the families that I've heard from, they're taxpayers too. They are. They're approving the buildings that we're in. They've been approving the programs that we're in. And I don't know why I'm going to shut them out when they want to participate in something that they see as value to their child. And so my recommendation is simply to open it next school year. By next school year, I mean so that when we have tryouts begin, starting whatever, whether it be January, February, March, that those children can participate in that tryout. Folks, just remember, just because they show up doesn't mean they make the team. We still pick, 12, Jay, in basketball? Yes, sir. That doesn't mean they're going to make it. But if we're truly about fielding the best, they're our best. They're our kids in our school system. And for whatever reason, life has given them, they've made a choice. And I've always respected our parents' choices. I'm going to deliver the best product we have, make certain that they know about it, communicate it, make sure they have a value. Obviously, we have some people that believe we have a lot of value to add. It's just in a different way. I believe in letting them add that value to their child.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Micah. I want to clarify the way SB 401 is written. If I'm not mistaken, it says, in effect, this would take effect unless we vote to not allow it. Is that correct?
Correct. So,
Okay.
Sir, what you have is, because you all adopted a policy in 21
Right.
that did not allow it, it is in place until September the 1st. Right. By September 1st, if you do nothing, it immediately goes into effect.
Right.
All right? What I'm asking you to do is vote to approve it for a year from now, thereby allowing us to give access to students to try out next year for the 26-27 year.
Right. So I guess logistically, since we have to vote on this every year, we're giving authorization a year in advance? Is that kind of what you're suggesting?
Yes, sir. So
if we were to adopt this?
Right, because again, Mr. Byer, and I want to thank some of the speakers who spoke with me earlier today, is that sometimes legislation and boots on the ground don't match up. Sure. I need time to get the boots on the ground to match up with this. I can't simply stand this up tomorrow because there are too many moving parts to it. It's a very complex system. It seems simple, but it's not. And again, all the different coaches, all the different sponsors, all the different programs, all the different requirements, all the fees, all of that allows us to go back, recalibrate some things, and then push that out so that following next year, we have this smooth transition in.
So I conducted my own little focus group this weekend with students just in our district that are middle school and high school. And, I think the overwhelming, I think I had 8 of them that I spoke to. And I think overwhelmingly, and I want to make sure, Dr. Micah, that we're not framing this as if we don't vote for it, that we're not in favor of kids, because I think I want to be careful with that. But it was interesting because I think the majority of the discussion was more about the details on what this looks like and not necessarily whether or not that they would welcome a student onto their team or their UIL academic debate team or whatever it is, choir, dance squad. Sure, they had some concerns about, there's going to be some students that aren't going to be happy with it. There's going to be some parents that aren't going to be happy with it if we go forward with this. But I think overwhelmingly, their students are resilient, they're flexible, and they said, yeah, we don't necessarily have a problem with it, but what does it look like? And I think that has been, leading up to this discussion, that's been my biggest question is, how do the transfer policies work? Do they have to come to class? How are we judging and looking at the academic record of that student versus our own student? And how is that verified? Who's going to verify that? If that student breaks a rule in the book and they would be one of our students gets ISS, what happens to that student? They get kicked off the team, or they just have to sit out for that period of time. So I think there's a lot of detail in this that, although I'm not necessarily opposed to this, that I would feel more comfortable seeing before I was able to say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And so, I think one of the things they asked is, well, why wouldn't they just enroll in the school if they want to participate? And I think that's also a valid question. And I know every family has their own reasons and their own way in how they have to treat their family, but it's like, okay, now we're going to start losing students because they can see, well, I can go to homeschool and I can still participate. On the flip side, they also asked, well, would we get more students back? Because some students might get into school and realize that they might be missing some friends that they got to see before or not. So do we have, I guess, the big question is, what detail do you have? What have you worked at? Because I know you've thought about this. I know the staff has thought about this. And what can you share with us?
Yeah.
And before that, and also one specific one, to verify or clarify that student would have to attend the school that they would be zoned to. Is that correct? Not just in our district.
That is correct.
But
so
if I'm
again,
zoned to Garner, I have to go to Garner. I can't school choice somewhere else.
Correct. Now, middle school is not your best case, even though that is UIL. This is more focused towards the high school.
Well, so that's a good question.
So it can be open, but in your case, I want to separate, because transfers and things at middle school are handled very differently than the high school. Okay, when it comes to athletics. All right, because of the competitive component to the UIL when you hit high school. Correct. So I say that, Mr. Byer, because again, my application of this would be, if you're zoned to go to Garner, that's where you go. But let's take for instance, and Mr. Jimenez, jump in here, right? Once they get to high school and you're starting now to compete for varsity, correct?
Yes, sir.
If and maybe I'm a sophomore or even a freshman, I've made varsity. I'm going to have to go. If I'm not, then they're going to go to the DEC, the DEC committee, to determine whether they transfer. Jay, I'm looking at you too. So
we have to look at first opportunity for the kiddos. So if their attendance zone is, let's just say, MacArthur, and they want to school choice, their first opportunity would have been at MacArthur High School, and typically they have to then sit out 365 days before they can, and this is for varsity,
Correct.
To be in varsity the following year. So there's still that same rule that our kids currently that are in our schools have to abide by, and it would be the same thing for our non-enrolled students.
Correct. I guess what I'm suggesting is that they, I guess, yeah, if you're at middle school, you go to the school you're zoned to. I guess what would be the opportunity for them to school choice?
So again, if they at this point, Mr. Byer, what I'm looking at it is not offering it. It is, you're going to go there or not. Like, I'm not going to, because again, there's a lot of moving pieces to this.
Right.
Is not to say, well, I'm in the MacArthur zone, but I want to go to Roosevelt. Well, you're slated to go here, and this is the opportunity we're providing, is to go to MacArthur.
Right.
It is not to then school choice, because that's not another layer of choice I'm willing to go down to.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So it is zoned where you're going to go.
So I guess back to the original question, I kind of cut myself off, but where are we with how this looks? And how far into this are we, or what is the plan on making it work?
Yep.
Or bringing us some information that is kind of backs up the very generic one sentence we have in the policy now.
Yeah. So, Mr. Byer, again, I can tell you that most of the way this is going to work is exactly how it works for every other child in our school. Again, if there is an athletic period, you have to come to the athletic period. If you misbehave, you're going to be handled. Yes, you're not giving ISS, but if you did it, that same consequence that would happen in that program happens to that child. They're just not serving in-school suspension. So, for instance, I think you and I had this discussion about if they're an ISS, then they miss practice or whichever. Same thing. If we've asked that child to remove, the laws are real clear. They're not getting anything different. They're not. You can't treat a non-enrolled student differently than an enrolled child. Those things are all there. It's more an issue of how do we handle if that class period is at fifth period. How do they come in, check in, go to class, then come back and go, right? Like all the other requirements of, hey, you got to ride a bus from this point to that, that's all going to apply there. All those same rules and things apply to whether you're non-enrolled or not. So how deep am I? I'm not real deep because, quite frankly, Ms. Byer, as I explained to you all, we don't have a lot of people to throw at things in hypotheticals. I need clear line of sight in order to know what I'm going to do. If you all do something like this, then I'm going to work with Jay, with Julie, with Mr. Jimenez, and we're going to come up with something to present to you to say, here's how this is going to run. This is our best line of thinking, but I don't have the manpower. Again, for the record, we're the 16th cheapest run district in the state. I don't have a lot of manpower to throw at things that may or may not work. I need clear direction from the board to say you're either want it or not, because I don't want to spend man hours and women hours on something that may or may not happen.
Yeah, but I think we have to have a level of understanding of what that is. Like I said, I know you've obviously thought about this, and I understand that we've got limitations on staff, but if we're going to throw out a big idea like this, we need to know what that big idea is.
So, Mr. Byer, what is your concern? Like how it works? It works like any other child in our district. So I guess I'm not understanding what the concern is.
To me, when you mention things like, okay, we've got to figure out how we check kids in and out of school. We have to, detail things like that I think some folks would have potential concern with, as far as, and I would think even from a homeschool side, to say, well, what if I invest my child in this and then we don't get selected for the team? Now are we opening ourselves up to some kind of favoritism, grievance, or something of that nature that ends up rising to a level that we never intended to?
Sure. And I think, Mr. Byer, that's I think that's the beauty of the bill, is that you have to revisit it every year. Yeah. That you're allowed that opportunity, that you're not making a decision for infinity, that you can come back to it and make adjustments to it. Again, from the districts I've spoken to, and it's more the internal processes of just answering a band director on how this happens or that happens, that I have full confidence in Ms. Shore and her team to address it. Same with Mr. Govan as to how to work it through. I think, again, there's a lot of misinformation out there around what this looks like. We have to dispel that misinformation and then work on, but I don't think it's a heavy lift to make the shift. It's the heavy lift to work through the system and all the little moving pieces. Because, again, how are they going to check in? They're going to go check into the front office like we do with anyone else, and then they're going to report to school. The question becomes, let's make sure that the parent knows this is how it's going to look, this is how it operates, and go from there. It's that communication.
Sure.
That's the piece I'm the most concerned about, because they're not enrolled. So in the back end, and things like with Mr. Villarreal, how do we include some of that in so that they're getting the pertinent information they need about the programs? It's those things I'm the most concerned about.
And I think that's ultimately what I'm suggesting, is being able to provide that information not only to the folks that might be interested in this, but also our own community, so that they understand what's happening. I guess one last sort of clarification question is, when we're talking about the transfer rules, and this is mainly for varsity, or it is for varsity, but would this be treated, let's say we do have a student who unenrolls to do homeschool 1 year and then decides to come back, is that also considered like switching schools? I guess that's more of I don't know if that's a legal technical question. So if I'm a sophomore and I unenroll for my junior year and then I decide to come back for my senior year.
Mr. Gavan, do you know that answer?
Is that treated as a
Come on up to
school
the mic, though.
change?
He's our DEC expert.
To where it might limit, even a homeschool student or even one of our own students who might jump back and forth. Would that limit that?
So what you're asking is if you get a homeschool student, they enroll into MacArthur. Well, they become a non-enrolled student at MacArthur, and then they go back.
So let's say I'm at MacArthur right now.
Okay.
And I decide to unenroll to be homeschool. I'm a sophomore.
Okay.
I unenroll my junior year to homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
But then I decide I want to go back my senior year to MacArthur.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole time I've been on varsity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that considered a school? Because if I switch from MacArthur to, let's say, a school in Houston,
mm-hmm.
or even one of our own schools, I have to sit out a year
mm-hmm.
to play varsity. Is that considered the same thing? Because that could put a homeschool student at a disadvantage if that happens.
If they go back to the school that they reside in,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll be eligible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they don't consider the homeschool as a different school.
Well,
You're just unenrolling.
Correct, because since homeschool doesn't have its own, the school code, and it's just, they're choosing to do homeschool, but because they reside in that attendance zone, that's where their eligibility still lies at right there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Cox, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I just have several questions I wanted to bring up. Dr. Micah, to your point about the geographic proximity. So help me understand in the actual bill what E1 means. And I can read it if that helps.
Which one are you reading?
It's SB 401.
Thank you.
And-
Nope, I have it here, so
Okay.
let me just get it.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, SB 401. Where are you? E?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So what that is saying is if you are slated in the district in a league okay, so I'm going to read it. Mr. Lopez, listen to my definition. If I'm wrong, please correct me, okay? So it says, except as provided by subsection E1, a non-enrolled student may only participate in a league activity for the school in the school district that the student would be eligible to attend on the student's residential address. So that's establishing residency and the zone that they would go to. So a Johnson's child that's registered, and that's the boundary, they have to go to Johnson. That's what that's stating.
So they can't be a non-enrolled student and try to enroll or participate in UIL at Lee.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Again, they're blocking you from building super teams. Correct, Mr. Lopez?
Good evening, everybody. So I think you were asking about subsection E1, which is that's the one that comes right after that. And what that says is that if a homeschooled student, a non-enrolled student, is sort of zoned to a school that is subject to a bar, in other words, the board of that particular district has decided not to allow homeschoolers to participate, what E1 does is say, okay, well, you can then go to the nearest school closest to your geographic area that does allow you to participate.
Nearest school or nearest school district?
Nearest school. So it's what you're asking, I think, ultimately is can people cross district boundaries under E1? Mm-hmm. And the answer is yes, under E1. So it's possible for someone who, let's say, resides in Northside or Comal to say, okay, well, my district says no, so I can now, under this, assuming you all allow it, that student would then be able to come and participate, and it would have to be at the school closest to whatever their geographic area is. Mm-hmm. And then the way the bill is written, that student would be responsible for still meeting all the requirements that are necessary to include being transported to and from. They'd have to figure out a way to get to the period and all that.
But Mr. Lopez, correct me if I'm wrong, that's if we allow it.
That's correct. That's if
That's
you allow
only
it.
if we allow
Well, no, but the E1 says
Right.
if you allow homeschool students
Right.
to participate. That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah. If you don't allow it, then theoretically, obviously a homeschool student could look at a surrounding school in a different district that if they decide to allow it. Does that make sense?
Thank you. My second question is, how does this, if this policy were to be adopted, how does it align with the district scorecard?
Students.
But weren't we tasked, elected as trustees to care for our district students?
I can't speak for how you were elected and why you were. I can just speak to what I said is these families live within our boundaries. They pay taxes. They are they are children within. We have a variety, which is why I explained to you, we don't ask who they are when they come to feed, to come to eat. We don't ask them when they came to get a haircut. We just took care of them. So I have a hard time rectifying why I care about them sometimes, but sometimes not, when they just have a program that they wish to participate in. If there is some adverse effect to students who are enrolled in it, when we see it, then we'll either be able to, one, bring it back to you and say, we now recommend don't do it, or two, we have the opportunity to adjust our policy to compensate for it. But again, we allow all sorts of things to happen throughout the year for students. Sometimes, just because now it's during a school day, it's hard for me to rectify the difference in my own head.
Okay, well, I appreciate that answer. My other question is about pass to play. So in my cluster, I have students who are at Heroes at 7 a.m., at school all day, run a track meet at 9:30 p.m., and then get up first thing in the morning. So my concern is that, and this may or may not be true, and like today, Mr. Byers' point, this is all kind of new, and we don't really know what it looks like in real terms, but expectations are different, and the day might be different for that enrolled student. So where is that sort of mechanism to try to equate that or to equalize that? I guess I'm concerned that it may or may not be a level playing field for both students.
Sure.
Both for the enrolled student and then the unenrolled student.
Sure.
You know, that unenrolled student might have access to more training minutes. And I think under UIL law or conditions or requirements, they only get so many training minutes during the school day. So that's one of my concerns too, is that it's not need to be fair either to the enrolled or unenrolled student.
So Ms. Cox, what I would first say about demands, I think we already have that disparity that exists in our schools. Some students take a lot of AP, dual credit, on-ramps classes, some don't. So they already can choose the rigor at which they want to participate in. I think that already exists in schools today. As far as the opportunities to train and such, a lot of our kids who either participate in, and I'll just talk about baseball, I'll even talk about my own daughter who was in dance. Just because she participated at Reagan High School in dance didn't mean that we didn't have her in private lessons in dance afterwards. We still did it. Whether it was going to happen during the day or after the day, we still provided those opportunities. Most of the young people that participate in athletics, a lot of them are participating in AAU sports or something else. It's not just reliant on school programming.
So can you speak to like that team environment? You know, how kids walk the hallways together and have class together and lunches like that. My concern is not necessarily for the enrolled student, it's for the unenrolled student.
Again, I think the one thing I can say about kids, and this is what I loved about going around the district with convocation this last time. My hunch right at the start was kids are kids, and we're going to hear all the same stuff. That's what we heard. Kids are kids. If they're on a team and they're doing it, I think kids are going to figure it out and figure out who they are and what they are. And again, I can sit here, Ms. Cox, and play the what-if game, right? Ultimately, I don't know, and nobody really knows how it all transpires until some of it happens. But the districts who have implemented it don't report any of these problems. So I wonder how much of it is just the fear of the unknown and what it may look like. And what I learned a long time ago is anytime we don't know, we tell a story in our head. And the story in the head is always negative one. I think this is one of those times it's worth it to have a young man who can participate in something like that. I also see a time, just quite frankly, if you look at the progression of bills, that I don't know down the line we're not going to be told you don't have a choice, quite frankly. And if anything I've learned over time as being the superintendent, I'd always rather do it to myself before they do it to me because I don't really like the laws. And Mr. Bywater and I spent a lot of time in Austin this past session, whether it was a cell phone bill or safety bill or any of these things. What we always tried to profess is we're going to do it right, and here's the why, and let us show you what we're doing, and try to undo some of the fear of that piece. And again, for those who adopted a cell phone bill, the real clear winner, right, was just ban it altogether, and we just didn't do it. Because again, I listened to parents just like I did this time, and I listened to kids just like I did this time, and I listened to employees. And I came to something that I felt good with. But ultimately, and you all know this, it's y'all's decision. I'm going to support it which way ever you vote. Because that's my job.
Well, I appreciate that. And I guess the last thing I would like to go on record saying I'm not against homeschool kids. My two nieces are homeschooled. What I don't think is this bill it's not right at this time, I think. And I've had very individual cases come to me, and I wish that they had written a bill. I would have written this bill differently. I would have made it maybe start off where we knew some of the parameters. Maybe for those students that were already involved in extracurricular activities, became unenrolled for whatever reason they needed to do that for themselves and their families. Maybe those students were allowed to continue on having that prior sort of capacity with the school and the experience and that those sort of things. So I am not against homeschool students. I'm always for every single student. I just don't know that our district's ready for this yet. And maybe it is, and like to your point, it's not like we have a bunch of extra money laying around, but maybe there can be some sort of report put together of what this looks like, and maybe that would help take away some of the fear and just create some more understanding so that there's not fear on the football team or on the soccer pitch or whatever between the enrolled student and the unenrolled student. So that's just kind of my thought. I just don't know that it's the best time for this, and I want it to be the best rollout for both the unenrolled and the enrolled student.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Hang on. Ms. Shelton, you had your mic on earlier?
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Ms. Chigi and Ms. Villarreal.
As a follow-up to Ms. Cox's earlier question when she was talking about subsection EB1, I thought I heard you say that if they weren't able to get in at a school, they could go to the neighboring school. So I think I know what that means, but I want to confirm that if they don't make the unmanned, unarmed drill team at Roosevelt, because we're number one, they would not necessarily be able to then just go to, who's next to us? MacArthur. That's across districts. It's not if they don't make the team at one school, they get to go to the next school and try to make the team.
Yeah, and it actually, E1 really doesn't have to do with whether or not a kiddo makes a team.
Okay.
It's all about whether or not they're allowed to even participate in any way. That's what that subsection is focused upon. Okay. It really is not a question of, oh, you tried out for X team at Y school and you didn't make it, so now you get to go forum shopping, if you will, until you make a team. That's not what that's about.
Okay.
No, not at all.
I wanted to confirm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I had a couple other questions. I can wait if Ms. Villarreal, that was just a follow-up to Ms. Cox's earlier question.
Ms. Chigi had next, and then Ms. Villarreal, so.
I'll wait.
Ms. Chigi.
Thank you. And I need to go on the record first as saying I love kids. I'm not opposed to homeschooling. But I heard you say there are 12 seats on the basketball team. Is that right? 12? I'm not an expert on basketball.
I would say in basketball, it's 12, 13.
You can get up to 15.
There you go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
So I don't think that number's going to change. So 2 of those go to homeschool kids. So that takes away 2 opportunities for 2 of the kids that are in our school that I feel like I do represent. Now, I did go to the feeding program, and I love it, and I want to do it, and I want to feed those kids. But feeding those kids doesn't take food away from our Northeast enrolled kids. If that homeschool kid takes that seat, takes that. Now, this young man has already made whatever spot you have on the band. You're not going to take it away. And that's why I like what you said. It's unfortunate.
But Ms. Chidgey, he could. Because here's the thing, at
Well,
any
he's
given
already taken it away because he earned that
but
in
any
a public
non-enrolled
school
student
kid.
could at any given point enroll and come in. I said at any given point a non-enrolled student could enroll and take the seat.
And that's correct, but then he would be our Northeast public school child. And I feel like those are the kids I represent. I would love to kumbaya, take care of the world, but my charge is to take care of these students that attend NEISD. The other thing that I think Ms. Cox was speaking about is the no pass, no play. They get 45 minutes or 50 minutes, however long per class, and then they go tick-tock to the next class. When you're at home with mom, you might be able to, he didn't get it, so I get to reteach and reteach and reteach. And likely mom's going to give the grade or help with the online setting. I just feel like the no pass, no play is not equitable. I also question, I know there's a cutoff to the amount of practice time they can have during the school day. Now, you said they can practice after school. Sure they can, but they have a load of homework. They're tired by then. A homeschool kid can practice at 10 o'clock in their backyard shooting hoops or practicing with their clarinet or whatever. There's no oversight of that. The whole difference is going to be there isn't that oversight. And when you said the band camp, we had homeschool kids coming, hooray, that's not UIL. I want them to come and be part of that. Maybe they'll come and love it and join us, but it's not UIL. They're not taking that seat. When those girls try out with Miss Shore, it's crushing when they don't make the team. And for us to say we're going to give it to somebody that doesn't attend our schools, I haven't talked to a parent yet that thinks that's okay. So that is a concern I have. I would like to know of the 2,700 kids, that's what you said, right? Probably more now. How many of those are high school? Because probably not a large percent of that, and I don't know that you can get that.
Yeah, I actually can, Ms. Chidgey. So again, once you're UIL, right? UIL is at middle and high. So I can give you that. It's about 2/3 of that number. So it is that many, that middle school and high school.
Okay.
Correct. So it is approximately, well, here I have it right here. It is about
1,800?
Yes, ma'am. It is about 1,800.
Okay.
Yep.
And they're not all going to want to do
Yes.
UIL.
No, ma'am. Middle and high. So high school, it's hard because the bands are 10 to 14 and 15 to 17. So your 14 could be in high school. Do you see? So I can just tell you the band. Okay. 10 to 14-year-old is 901, and 15 to 17-year-old is 884. If you want to know the below that one, 5 to 9 is 908.
And I also feel like public school is being chipped away at, and this is another way to do that. I don't know why, if they can do this, they can't say a private school kid that wants to swim and the private school doesn't have swimming, they come to our school. at some point, our coaches are spending more time with kids that don't attend our schools. So I love kids, always have loved kids. They're in my heart. I'm a military child. I want to help this kid. But I also feel like I owe our Northeast ISD students some protection for that spot on the bench.
Ms. Villarreal.
You know, I respect what you're saying. I, understand. But I want to read something to you, okay? The official mission of Northeast ISD is to challenge and encourage students to achieve academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship, while preparing them for college and workplace readiness in a safe, supportive, and equitable, we love to use that word, equitable, okay, and inclusive. We love that word, all right, learning environments. The district also partners with the community to foster positive relationships and serves as a center for community involvement. I think we're forgetting something, and it's quite profound. Each one of these students has parents who actually pays into our system. And for us to be, we're sitting here and we're saying, well, what if they take a seat from, one of our current, well, if they're good enough to take that seat, then they should be able to take that seat. Those parents are paying taxes and they're helping to support our schools. So, we are not being inclusive and we are excluding tax-paying parents and kids from our school if we say no. Now, there's one of our homeschooling parents sent me something, and this was, because I had questions. I'm going, how does this actually work? And apparently, Tyler School District has been including unenrolled schoolants in UIL activities for 2 to 3 years. And the district athletic director, Sam Gillespie, shared how this policy works practically. So they've had 3 years of experience already. He explained that they outline requirements and participation guidelines on their athletics website. He said they, unenrolled students, have to be there every single day and at every meeting during the on-season and the off-season just alike, like every other kid. He further asserted, if there is a young man or young woman out there that can help our program who is not a discipline problem, all right, why wouldn't we want them if they're going to help our program? We're always talking about the fact that we have, like in my district, we're talking about we would love to have other, more kids involved in our athletic programs. I see this as an incredible opportunity and to offer that inclusivity into our community. We have a homeschool student. She is one of the best golfers in the state. Other schools are missing out on unbelievable athletics because they didn't allow unenrolled students to participate. This year, we have a starting volleyball player for a 6A high school. All right, reflecting on the experience, Mr. Gillespie said, we haven't had a bad experience. We haven't had any problems. The experiences we have had has all been good so far. He acknowledges considerations and values, stating there are pros and cons. Our superintendent is a real supporter of athletics. We're in the kid business. It's what we're in. I think we're forgetting this. We are in the kids' business. They don't have to go to our school for us to be in the kid business. Importantly, he summed up the philosophy behind the approach. If you've got a good athlete, why not allow them to help with our athletic program? Athletics is athletics and comes with many life lessons. One of those lessons is that sometimes there's someone out there that's better than you. Tyler ISD has already been allowing homeschool students to participate And the superintendent, Marty Crawford, has confirmed that the new law won't change a thing for their students. So this is a 3-year study already. And I think, and I'm like Dr. Micah, I don't believe in fear. I don't run my life in fear. And I don't, and we can sit here and we can, what if? We're not saying that this district has to keep this. We try it for a year. We let these kids participate. If it's a flop, whoever is sitting on this board in a year can come back and say, no, that didn't work. We're getting paid $1,500 a kid for them to participate. There is no good reason for us to say no. It's a win-win all the way. We open up our, we all we do is sit up here and we moan and we groan and we say we're losing our students and what's happening? Why can't we bring these students back? Why can't we see this as an opportunity to get kids back in our programs, back in the door, show them that NEISD has so much more to offer, get their parents acclimated to our district again, and perhaps, maybe, pull some of these kids back in full time. So that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Ms. Landry. Okay, then you're next.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say we do represent our community. We don't just represent the parents of the students who are enrolled in our schools. And there are 1,000 reasons that parents have to make good decisions for their child. And like it or not, we cannot meet every single need of every single student. But we have opportunities, just like when we invited Morgan's Wonderland in to build resources on our facilities for our community. That's not just for students in our district, that's for all of our community. And I would even venture to say that some of us probably received campaign donations from people who are not parents of our students. We didn't ask them not to donate to our campaigns because they weren't parents of our students. We gladly accepted them and allowed them to vote for us. So we represent our whole community, not just those who fit the niche of being in our schools. And there's a lot of reasons that parents may choose and have to choose not to bring their children to the district. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed to participate in the opportunities where they can fit in. And it doesn't mean that it's not an opportunity for us to shine as a district with quality programs and equitable opportunities for every student, for every child in our community. And so I think we really need to be careful when we say that if the parents didn't bring their kids here, we don't represent them, because there's a good chance they voted for you. And we need to ensure that we're delivering a quality product and that we're ensuring that every child in our community has equal opportunity, and whatever their needs are, whatever their abilities, whatever their disabilities, whatever their challenges, whatever their successes, that we're here for that, for all of it. And I really feel, and I'm very disappointed that that we have a student here who has already been placed in the team, and that we don't have an opportunity to make something happen so that his situation is very unique. A military family, we are Military City, San Antonio, and we probably have, for everyone that speaks up, we probably have 10 more that don't. And if we can do something and find an opportunity, I think it would set us apart and set us above the others and set us above Northside. That's what we want to be, above Northside, right? Absolutely. And that's all I have to say.
Ms. Thompson.
This really weighed on me, and so there was a lot of thought this past couple of weeks that we've known about this. When I was looking at just UIL has a lot of rules. In fact, it's hundreds of pages of rules. But their objective says to prepare them, being the students, for citizenship by providing inter-school competition among the public elementary and secondary schools of Texas. So I have nieces and nephews who homeschool. They love it. Their parents love it. I love them. That's the choice that they have made for their family. And in that choice, they've declined what public school has offered to them. I have we are just done, had my children enrolled in public school, and we took all the good things and all the bad things that came with that. We don't have the liberty to cherry pick what, this is totally an example. This didn't really happen, but my son didn't like his math teacher. I don't have the liberty to pull him out of math, homeschool him at math for the day, and then send him back. We have so much oversight, law, code over our academics that we're required to follow. And I don't think, that's what homeschool parents, I believe, are looking for, is the flexibility beyond those things. I honestly don't think there are going to be negative impacts or problems. I don't think that's not the issue. For me, it's that I'm all in on public school, and that's what I advocate for. I'm on a public school board, not a charter board or a homeschool coalition. So that's how I feel about that.
Ms. Shelton.
I too took a survey of kids and adults, and with mixed reviews. My boys and my daughter were all varsity athletes, and they too had mixed reviews. My son, the soccer player, is like, yeah, if they're good, we'll take them, right? But he just wants to win. But my daughter had different concerns. The same thing happened with the parents that I spoke to. There were parents that were very much like, yeah, they pay taxes, why not? And then there were parents that were very much like, we're all in or we're all not. So I have struggled with what the vote is, what my vote would be if this comes to a vote tonight, because my constituency, the people that I support, some of which are in school with us and some of which are not, they feel differently about where this should land. So then I have to go back to the data. And Dr. Micah, I feel like we don't have a lot of data. And that concerns me, that we would vote on. There's a lot of emotion on the dais right now, and there's not a lot of data that would help substantiate a vote one way or the other to Tracy. And so let me ask a couple questions, and then I probably have a recommendation, but I think my president has one too. This young man who sits here is no longer in our district. I know I can't ask him, so I'm looking at you, asking you. He's no longer in our district?
No, he still resides in our district.
No, he's no longer attending classes at
He is no longer
Claudia
enrolled
Taylor
in our
Johnson.
schools.
Okay.
That is
so
correct.
He's no longer enrolled in our schools. Even if this passed, as it's written today, he could not take his position in the band.
That is correct.
So I can't speak to you because I'm not really supposed to do that. But
I
say
that is correct, because what I'm asking for is permission for the following year, not immediate.
So it wouldn't even impact him and allow him to take his spot in band.
Correct.
Okay. So that's question number one. Thank you for standing up for something that you believe, even though it won't impact you one way or the other. How do we define participation? Because one of the things that you said several times is every student that participates in each sport, we receive $1,500. So what is participation? Is that signing up? is that staying for the whole season? What if they get kicked off the team? What if they get injured? They quit?
I'm not a lawyer, nor do I ever try to play one.
I love it when you bring him up.
So he's here to define participation. Unfortunately, I've learned through Mr. Lopez's wisdom and guidance over the years that words really do matter tremendously when it comes to the law.
Do. So participation would involve the student actually not just trying out, but actually making the team. So if they participate, I would argue that the money would be available to the school district to draw from, assuming that they are on a team or participating in an event in any way, that whether they make a team on varsity, whether they're at the middle school level and are just participating because everybody gets to participate, all of that, if they make a team or if they participate on some level, then they're going to qualify for the drawdown of that money.
What if they get hurt? My kid got hurt his senior year. He did not, he was on the team, but he didn't play.
That would still count as participation, even if he gets hurt. Because in that sense, it's no different than an enrolled student could get hurt, and that student is unable to play due to a medical limitation.
What if he quit the team?
If
so
they
he makes
quit,
the team in August, he quits the team in October because he has a concussion.
we would still consider that participation for purposes of drawing down that funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Darren, who sits before us, is anyone else asking for this, Dr. Micah or Mr. Jarrett?
So the emails have come to me.
So
sure.
I've gotten the emails, but I haven't gotten any parent saying my kid wants to participate, with the exception of one.
Sure.
I've gotten people saying I'm for this, and I've gotten people saying I'm against this, but I've only gotten one parent saying I want my child to have this.
So I can tell you that the parents that I've spoken to, and again, the piece here is, I don't run in a homeschool circle. There is a whole network set up that homeschool parents work in, and by work I mean just utilize resources and things, right? So what I've done is try to reach out to folks that I know are either in homeschool or have done, and seek their feedback on it. Because quite frankly, from what some of them I've heard, because most districts just say no to it, some have already given up on hope that would even happen. And so for those that didn't, I can tell you, this parent attended our schools, had a great experience in band, and is very passionate about the band program, just like the young speaker this evening. For no other reason other than life, they choose to homeschool their two children. And what she said is, I want my kids to participate in your program because there isn't that availability for us to do something like that in a homeschool. I can't come to school for these reasons, but I would like to do that. I've met with another parent, who's actually a former Harris parent of mine, that has one in school and one not in school, and said, look, here's the reason that I left. Yes, would I want this? Absolutely, I would want it. So again, I think, Ms. Shelton, are there other people asking? Yes, but in our geographic area, I believe other than Judson, who's opened it years ago, nobody's really doing it.
Yeah,
and so I think for a lot of people, i.e., and I can tell you one of the speakers this evening that I met with, she's learned a lot about these things and how it really operates. And again, there is a lot of misinformation, I think, from just the general public about what is and isn't allowed in this, whether you're homeschool or not.
Right. Yeah, and I ask that question because Texas has a very strong homeschool network, and right, and the moms tend to, and dads tend to have very strong resource bank. I'm going to Terry because she's strong in math. I'm going to David because he's strong in science. And we're going to rotate. And we're going to also do the same thing with our athletics. And so I ask the question, who's asking for this? Just based on my background and my experience. We looked at homeschooling William, right? And putting the other two in public because of our life. And we found that there was a strong network. So I just wonder, beyond the 3 people, does anyone care? Is this something that they want? So that's that question.
And Ms. Shelton, I can tell you from what any district that's open, it's not like you're going to get hundreds of kids.
Right.
It's going to be, do I think are you going to get all 1,700? No.
Right. Correct.
Right. I think that's a misbelief. But to me, if in the case like this, one parent that I spoke to, they've never been in our schools.
Right.
And what we know is sometimes, and I mean this kind of tongue in cheek, but if you're going to go out and buy a car, they let you test drive it for a reason. It's to determine whether you like it or not. Hey, some may actually come in and test drive us and think that we're actually a pretty good deal. Now, do I know that to be true? Nope. Because I have no idea.
Sure.
It could be the opposite to say we don't like it, right? I don't know either way, and to me, it's the only way you do know for certain is to try it and see how it goes.
What other services, if any, do we provide to homeschool families within the district?
Yeah. All those programs like I was telling you this summer about.
Well,
during the school
those are
day.
open to the public.
Sure.
So what, during the school
But
year.
funded by us.
What do we, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. I mean, those are open to the community, right?
Sure.
I can go
Yep.
do the Eat Free. So, but what are throughout the school
Well,
year?
you're not supposed to because
Okay,
you're supposed
no,
to be
I
going
wouldn't,
by
though.
age.
Oh, I
So if
wouldn't.
you're doing that, that's not real good.
I'm not. My children.
You have to be a student.
I don't look like I could pass for a student. So, but throughout the school year, seriously,
Sure.
what other programs, if any, are we offering to homeschool families?
Again, we don't.
We're not offering
because
any. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We're not.
All right, and then tell me the districts that are doing this. I heard Ms. Villarreal said Crawford, Tyler.
Wiley ISD is doing it.
Tell me again.
Wiley. Judson has been
Judson.
doing it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I don't have the full list, Ms.
Okay.
Shelton, but there's 1,200 districts, right? I think there are some that haven't, again, it's not something that I can go to all 1,200 and try to pull up a policy, and there's no real repository of something like this.
Sure.
In which to garner. But again, is it a widespread? Absolutely, I would say no.
Okay. I thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lopez. I feel like this is premature. I don't necessarily think it's a no, because I think we have enough, or at least I have heard from enough people today even, that this might be worth doing. But I think the way it's framed right now and the lack of data that we have as a board, I don't think we should vote on this, because I don't think we will get it right. And you said,
But Ms. Shelton,
Dr. Micah,
if you don't vote
then
on
I
it,
think we vote no.
Okay.
And then
I just wanna be clear.
Work on
Okay.
what the correct framing
Sure.
is of this, and we get the information so that the board feels comfortable. I think I heard Mr. Byer earlier saying, but I mean, it was like, but how is it going to, you're saying you need a year. Well, what do you need a year to do? This feels like closing schools to me all over again. And you came up with a brilliant plan. Show us what it looks like to help get people comfortable with those things that are causing angst, right? And the reason I was very concerned about Darren in particular. Darren can't win with this because he's not going to be able to get in, right? So now let's just look at the greater good. How do we make this work? And how do we make sure everyone understands and that we can properly educate the people that are constituents who are a no, right? I had some very strong no's, but what's the story? What's the narrative that's true that we can tell them and help them get comfortable with why this makes sense for us? The way this is written and without any framework, any outline of, and here's how we're going to go do it, makes me uncomfortable voting for this today, or voting in the affirmative.
Ms. Shelton,
today.
the only ask I have is what data do you want? other than policies, which I understand you want to know how it actually would work, what data are you lacking that in the meantime I can go to work on gathering so that you feel like you have the information that you need?
Yeah. What and just as a beginning, what's going on in Judson, Tyler, and Wiley? I heard Ms. Varial saying it's working great. What does that mean? What does working great mean? I like numbers, right? How are you going to lay this out? How do we communicate it to our community members? What are the parameters that we're going to place on people as they come into our schools? And I know you're saying it's going to be just like the students.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but probably not really.
So it's not, again, so it's not really data, it's procedural processes in which I'm just trying to clarify for myself what it is, and what you're asking for, I believe, is procedural process of how things would actually work in the event that this was done.
How they work, how do we communicate it,
Sure.
and what is happening in other districts. That becomes the data, right?
Communicate to...
First to the board, to get
Right.
the board comfortable, and then to the parents, to the homeschool parents, that this is an opportunity. Because if we've never done this before and
Yep.
we've never offered them anything, they're not looking to us for an opportunity. But how do we communicate that this is
Yep.
an opportunity? And how do we communicate to our parents that have students in the schools that this is a good thing and it builds our community?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, and I would suggest that you mentioned that earlier, Dr. Micah, that when I was sort of fumbling with my what I want this to look like is what Ms. Shelton said, and it's, you know, if you have in the back of your mind, we're going to put out something to make sure our community knows and homeschool community knows, like what is that? I mean, I will tell you right now, I don't think this is a bad thing, and I think I'm probably supportive of this. However, I'm uncomfortable in the sense that there's a plan you're going to lay out, because there's communication you're going to give to our parents, or communication you give to the homeschool parents. And there are processes and procedures that you are going to give to our campuses on how they handle these kids coming in and out, that you're going to give to our coaches on how we initiate this for the first year or two. And I think I'm comfortable giving you authorization to do that, or to say, yeah, I'm supportive of this, on the condition that before tryouts happen in March and before the very first time somebody from homeschool has to step onto one of our campuses, what does that look like? And if we can commit to getting that, then I think that gives me everything I need. I mean, I think, again, I'm generally supportive of this, and I think we need to give kids an opportunity, but I think we owe it to the folks in our district to know, what does this look like?
I would echo that and say, you know, I can see where this makes sense, right? When I first read, I got the first email from a mom, and I read it and I thought, I don't think this is a good idea. And then because I was worried about liability. I'm always worried about liability, right, and costs. And I talked to Dr. Micah, and he walked me through each of my concerns. And I was then a yes until I started getting the opposite calls, right? And so now I'm in this kind of uncomfortable place where I too, like Mr. Byer, can see how this could work for us. But as what you've given us today does not effectively communicate that forward. And I would argue, for Tracy anyway, I'm not comfortable voting in the affirmative on the hope that you're going to give me a plan. I mean, we're still asking how much money did we save the $10 million for the school closures. So I want to see it before I say you can do this in 2026. And I'm assuming we can say no tonight, and then you can give us a plan, and then we can come back and say, let's update our policy again.
And Ms. Sheldon, if I can jump in, I want to give you an update. One of your questions was, what do we offer homeschool kiddos right now in our district? One of the things that our kiddos our homeschool kiddos can take is AP exams with us. And the state actually gives them the same fee as our regular kids. So that's just an example of where homeschool kiddos are accessing some of the resources that are available.
Is that the only thing that they're accessing?
No. But one of the other things, but this isn't just for a homeschool child, but if they potentially have a learning disability, by law, we have child find, and we have to test them.
Ms. Cox had a comment first, and then I'll get to you, Ms.
I just
Ferrero.
have a comment and one question. This to Ms. Shelton's point about data, and I don't know, there might not be any of this, but thoughts on, is there any data as to if students go the other way? Like, you hope that if you open up this for homeschool, the kids will want to come and participate in the school day, but there may be some of those students that are only there right now because of the sports or the fine arts. So is there that loss
Again,
the other way?
Yeah. All you can go with data, and that's why I asked a very specific question about data, because is there some tracking mechanism in the districts that have done that to say that? No. Does any district that I am aware of that I've spoken or been able to speak to say that they're losing mass kids? Absolutely not. They're not. That's not what they're saying, whether they are or not. But I just want you to be clear. There's not like a PEMS code, right?
Sure.
That says, and that's why I think the beauty in this bill is that you revisit it every year. Because by revisiting it every year, you can make up for the unintended consequences. To me, it's kind of like when the ledge passes a bill and you talk to so many of them and they say, well, we'll just clean it up next session. Because they do it, and then some things that are unseen, they have to clean things up, right? Again, the districts I've spoken to don't report any negative consequence to them doing this. But I can appreciate the piece of there is a lot of discussion around this. Again, a lot of misunderstanding around it about what the do's and the don'ts. And I've heard the issues of fairness and things like that come through. But everything I can see in this bill doesn't give anybody, because it's not designed to give anyone an unfair advantage other than if they are going to practice during a day. But I also was a middle school principal, and I know kids left to go practice during the day too. I mean, I know it. I watch them check out on a routine basis with their parent.
So you're saying there's people are unclear, they don't know the do's and the don'ts. We don't either.
Yeah, and Ms. Shelton, I appreciate that, and I can bring you back a lot more information. That is fine. But when you talked about consolidation, I'm just going to push back a little bit and tell you, no, our plan did work. We did tell you what we saved. Ultimately, I can never do until we close the books out, and we don't close the books out for a while. So I'm not going to come and give you a number that I'm going to have to reverse on, but we've said twice now that we've saved over $6 million. We expected to save $3 million. So what we did work. It worked quite smoothly, but in any big decision like that, just like this one, there's always going to be people who push back on that. But ultimately, everything that we professed that we would do, which was take care of our employees, we did. Nobody lost their job over it. 2 is we made things move and pushed out. And 3 is we saved the district the money, but it was actually double the amount that what we thought, because it's so hard financially to track that. Until we see it.
I receive what you just said, and I agree that you did exactly what you said. And actually, I was going to congratulate you, because I had a parent call me today and say that it is smooth sailing at Northwood, and they are thrilled. So some of my Wilshire parents. So thank you for that. I say the money piece because we think it's going to be. So if we go back and look at the tapes, it's not definitive. It's this is what we think. And so based on this is what we think, I am not as comfortable giving a lot of rope, a lot of leeway without a plan, without clearly understanding what this is going to look like for our community. So I do want to say I applaud what you guys did, because you did a stellar job, and our parents are saying thank you. So I don't want to take that away, but we are still saying we think it's going to be. Because clearly the books aren't closed, so we don't know at this point, and we don't know about this either, which is why I don't think we should vote in the affirmative.
Ms. Cox, you had
I just had one more.
And then Ms. Landry.
Sure. I wish that this bill or our policy could help students like Darren, and I'm sure there's others, because I think they're the most important at this time. I'm not opposed to this bill at some point. I've always been about every single kid. I have nothing against homeschool kids. I'm sure they could bring, I just think it's too much too soon, and I don't want to rush into it. And I would like to, Mr. Byer and Ms. Shelton's point, just to have a little bit more information to make sure that everybody knows what's expected and everyone gets an even chance, an even shot, and that, you know, we build that sense of community whether you're on the campus or you're not.
Ms. Lander?
Thank you.
Okay, so I just have two questions, really. So the purpose of voting for this or on this tonight, what I heard you say, Dr. Micah, and I think Ms. Shore, that the practice or the tryouts start March, April? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah.
March time?
March, right, Ms. Shore? Isn't that, you can just tell me yes or no.
So they have a parent meeting that starts.
Well, go ahead. I didn't know we were going to get, I thought it was going to be a yes or no
I'm
answer.
so sorry. So out of our 7 high schools, they all start having their parent meetings for tryouts, which are required for everyone that's trying out to have a parent be present at a meeting where they go over expectations, finances, discipline, those types of things, and dates. They have to go through that before they're allowed to try out, and those start at the end of January through the first 2 weeks of February, depending on the school.
Okay, thank you. And so and we vote on stuff like this all the time so that the district has the opportunity and the time to develop the plan to implement the process. And it sounds like we really need to make a decision so that a plan can be implemented and created so that those parents have the communication and ample time, that we have the opportunity for Ms. Chancellor to develop a communication plan. We have an opportunity for Ms. Shore and the program directors to develop their plans for ensuring that all of the checks are marked. And so we're looking at this for next year, but next year really starts in January. And I think that, and we vote on things like this all the time with the trust and expectation that the district's going to come back with the process outlined. And I don't see any reason why we should delay voting on this to get the ball rolling and give everybody sufficient time to develop the process. And if there's something we don't like in the process, I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to ask for changes and modifications. But January is only 4 months away.
So when would we have to have that information to be able to provide to those parents of homeschool? If we're doing tryouts in January, let's say, or parent meetings in January, I don't care if that's academic, UIL, theater, soccer, dance, what is the earliest we would have to provide that to all parties involved? Our community, sorry, everybody's our community, our students enrolled, the unenrolled students. When would we have to get all that information out?
Wouldn't we want to do that as quickly or as soon as possible?
Correct. What I'm asking,
especially since our target
what
audience.
I'm asking is, what does our district need to put all that information together to get that to the parents?
So Mr. Byer, the first challenge would be reaching out to the homeschool community, because again, I can tell you there is a homeschool community, and I say homeschool community in the sense of, because they look so different. There's one in, it's actually in Ms. Chidgey's area, that's run by some of our former teachers that run it. That's a community of itself. There's another community that does things over there. And so the first challenge that I have is to, how do I communicate with all these people? That's the first challenge. It's not about going, because again, I believe the law is pretty clear about the do's and the don'ts. I'm not too concerned about that. It's about, how do I communicate adequately out due to all the misinformation around this policy, to not just our students, of the parents of the families that are enrolled in our school, but the parents who aren't enrolled. Because some of the homeschool folks, or the non-enrolled folks that I've talked to, think there is some differences in here, and it's clearly not.
Let me rephrase this then. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical. You're going to put together a one-page FAQ that explains all this. Mm-hmm. How long does it take to put that together with the information you need to get out to the community? I know you have to get to multiple different homeschool clusters, and you have to be able to get to all of our enrolled students and families. How long does that, with what you stated earlier that you need to put together, how long does it take for our district to put that together, regardless of who you have to get it out to?
Months.
Months. And so we have to have that information out before January. And so you have 4 months. So.
Because again, Mr. Byer, each one of these UIL programs, which is why I brought up the 24 and the 30, there's little nuances in all of them, whether there are fees or not fees, whether they're at expense, whether there's not, whether there's travel with that, whether there's not. There's all these other little pieces in there. It's not like I can write this that appeases Mr. Govan and every different athletic that you do that equally then just rolls over to Mrs. Shore's programs, because they're all quite different. That's that component is, so when we're talking about communication, it's not like I can just say, here it is. It's going to be, this is the opportunity now. You're going to have to come and listen to all the different qualifications and then make a determination whether you actually want to participate or not, because that's the component to it. And again, I know you read from Tyler, it's not like a huge influx of kiddos.
So for the 24 athletic programs and the 30 fine art programs, do we have to have each one of those individual programs outlined for the different communities? And do those all have to be done by before January?
Yeah. So
That's my question.
So Mr. Byer, each one of these programs has a different kind of set of rules and expectations that they're to participate in.
And do they all have to be in place by
No,
the end
sir.
of the year?
So, but a lot of them, such as, I don't know, Mr. Govan, when does football and all of that tryout stuff start for you all?
So what we'll start doing,
I guess the fall programs.
So they'll start January, late January, starting to send information out, communicating to all the parents about spring ball starts late April. If schools opt in to do spring ball, then you've got summer strength and conditioning going on, and that goes on with all the fall sports as well.
Okay. And I guess that's where the crux of my question is, or some of my issue is that, are we have 54 activities that we have to provide some kind of guidance for. Was your intent to get those all done at once and have them available, or roll them out throughout the year and we have a rolling schedule because some people meet at different times?
Right.
And I think where I'm getting with this is that I think I would like to support this with the knowledge that I have the opportunity to see those before they are sent out. And if those are all done at one time, then I would say let's vote to get this thing moving tonight, with the caveat that you bring all that information to us at a later date so that we can say, this is it.
Yeah, so Mr. Byer, what I would do is speak with Mr. Jimenez, Ms. Shore, and Mr. Govan, and what we would do is build that time frame of what sports are coming up first and that we need to get ahead of first, focus our efforts and energy there, and then start to matriculate them through, because once we do them in those sports that are coming up in January, that's really kind of driving all of this. It's utilizing them. Once I think we work through the first few, it's going to become much easier then to work through the others. But they're little, and Ms. Shore, you are always kind of the gray on my hair, because your programs are so different and so unique, whether that's UIL reading, one act play, right, or whether that's dance and cheer or something else. There's little components in there that we got to work through. But I think once we start going through them, I think we can. And I look, my goal would be to bring you something later this fall to show you, because I'm not sure which I don't know if it was Miss Landry or Miss Shelton. Sorry, I can't keep track of it. To come and give you the opportunity to review and allow you to put input and say, we're uncomfortable with that. Okay. So then what are you uncomfortable with? Let's go back to the drawing board, because again, ladies and gentlemen, you're the board. So however you vote, you can revisit this in a week from now. Like, you're the board. You get the authority to do it, because that's how you all operate.
Ms. Villarreal, you had her mic, and then Ms. Shelton.
Yes. Okay, did I hear you say, Dr. Micah, that we have a September the 1st deadline on this? No, what was it?
So September the 1st deadline, let me be clear with that, Ms. Villarreal. In the law, if you do not take action to deny homeschool students or non-enrolled students access to UIL, it immediately goes into effect. So no action means the law goes into effect, which means non-enrolled students can now participate.
Well, see, we've had this experience just recently where, districts pushed back on some of this stuff, and here we are with our library books and things like this. And I'm like you, I like to get ahead of things. And frankly, I've been on this board for 3 years, and I've never known you to bring something to us that you already didn't have some thought process and some preliminary ideas already, drawn up. You never bring us anything unless you have kind of a destination on where you want to be. So, and frankly, it's been my experience on this board when we have gone against the wishes of what the administration wants us to do, it's really done some damage. We have been, in the past, we've been brought things and, we voted against it or we tabled it, and then later on it caused us to have to close schools. So, I trust this administration, and I also feel that taxpayers that pay, they pay taxes on their homes, and I have to look at what is the value that they're getting for those taxes that they're putting out every year on their homes. And this would be a way for these homeschooling parents to say, well, gee, I am getting some value for my money if I so choose to use it. So I'd like to see us do it. And it's not like we're actually locking ourselves in for the next 500 years. We have a year to really look at it and decide if we like it or not. So and then give our admin the chance to, to shine like they always do. They always bring us good stuff. And Dr. Micah seems passionate about it. And I know all of us here trust Dr. Micah in his ideas. He's been very forward-thinking. He's done a lot of good for our district. We've got a lot of programs that we wouldn't have had if this man wasn't sitting here. So, and he really wants this.
And we can hash this out another time, but I'm not sure what decisions we've made that made us close the schools, but that's a...
No, we, at one point, we,
Shelton.
we
Mr.
did.
Byer, so if we vote, I just want a point of understanding. If we vote to not accept this language if we vote today to not accept this language and keep our policy as it is, where unenrolled students cannot participate in UIL, can we, after we get procedural process, answers to the questions from the administration, can we come back and look at this language again and make the changes at a different time?
Yes, I mean.
So we could put this back on the agenda. We can take action today so that we give ourselves the space that we need, and we could put it back on the agenda if we choose to change our minds. Is that correct?
That is correct. And what I was trying to get at, yes, we have the flexibility to do that. This is our policy. We could write it however we want.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to get some clarification as to when we're planning to have this information. It's going to take them time to do this. And so my suggestion was if we give them authorization to go forth and give us the detail that, we still have an opportunity for that to come back. So to answer your question, yes, we can frame this however we want to.
I am going to try not to blunder this. I took some notes, but I don't know that it's going to come out the right way. Like Ms. Villarreal, I overall trust the administration, and I trust that this staff is committed to the success of all students. So that makes me feel good. I am uncomfortable with how often we are brought something at a deadline that we have to vote on that the administration wants or doesn't want, and we don't have the runway to ask the questions and have them go get that information and come back to us, and then we vote. We are now, again, up against the deadline where we have to vote. We're not meeting again before September, so we are saying potentially, okay, bring it to us later. To Diane's point, Ms. Villarreal's point, she just said, you guys always have a plan. So where is it? I mean, I guess for me, because I do like data and I want to understand, I feel like we're blindly saying yes to something, potentially, that half of our constituents are uncomfortable with, and we don't know how it's going to play out. And so we're just saying, if we say yes to this, okay, hopefully it'll work out. That makes me uncomfortable, and I feel like in this seat often we're in this position.
And I will suggest that our legislators didn't do us any favors, because we were given this information at the end of a session. We get it in June, and we have to make a decision by September 1st in a lot of cases. And with scheduling, whether that's administration's fault, whether that's my fault, whatever, as putting these agendas together, we take these things as they come. And I understand what you're saying, because it does feel like, but yeah, there's a lot of things. So what I would actually like to make a motion to approve the policy as presented with the condition that we are provided the, I'm going to say the process and procedures for these 54 activities prior to implementing the process.
I would like to second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any questions?
I have a question. So we're approving to allow homeschool students to participate in programs in the next school year.
On the condition that we are allowed to review and approve these activity guidelines prior to them being disseminated.
Disseminated, what does that mean? Prior to?
Dr. Micah said they're going to be sent out. They have to be provided to the parents, the homeschool communities, all that. And that to me is the detail that I think needs to be provided so that we know what it looks like to be able to answer the questions that I potentially have.
Meaning that we could change our decision?
That we could change our decision.
If we weren't happy with?
That is correct.
Okay.
So my motion is to approve the policy as presented to us with the condition that then we at a future meeting, we review and approve these these guidelines, activity guidelines, I'm going to call them, at a future meeting before they're sent.
And
any other questions?
I'm going to be quiet.
Do you have a question? Please ask it. I mean, I understand. I mean, my intent is that this gives us the flexibility. If there is something we don't like, we have, 3 or 4 more months to.
So my concern is we get it in December and they have to push it out in January. And so we don't have an opportunity to say, we don't like this, or this. But now we feel the pressure to vote yes because we've got, potential Williams that are waiting on this. And it goes back to my earlier point and my frustration that I'm sure you can hear in my voice about not having a runway so that we can thoughtfully ask the question and allow the staff to give us the information. I mean, this happened to me last month, and I'm like, here we go again, right?
Sure.
To thoughtfully ask the question and get the information before we have to vote on something that impacts all of our constituents. There are people who want this and there are people who don't. I think it's probably going to be good for us, but it's not framed up in a way that it's palatable for the majority of our constituents who are a no right now. And so I'm going to agree to disagree. And
See, the thing is, though, they're giving us an out. Once the admin brings us the information, if we don't like what they're bringing us, we have the right to say no. We're not locking ourselves in because the way David is posing it. Is that
we're committed to kids. If they bring us something in December and we don't,
Ma'am, could you, Ms. Shelton, put your microphone on, please?
15 kids that want it, we're not going to say no because we're not going to disappoint a child that way.
Well, but the thing is, if we don't vote for
No, I
this-
want us to vote. I'm just
because-
telling you my vote is a no, and I'm trying to explain why my vote is a no, because we don't have the information that we need today.
Let me, no
Ms.
disrespect, but what it sounds like is you're voting against the taxpayer.
No,
that-
Miss, hey,
and
hey,
the kids.
everybody, okay, listen, there's let's not.
That's
make
exactly
accusation.
what you're doing.
Ms. Villarreal, this back and forth is not helpful to the conversation. Does anybody have any questions about the motion that's on the table right now?
Just a reminder that we have to revisit this year after year.
That is correct, we do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion fails 3-4.
And I need to make one comment. This in no way says that I don't support our administration or trust our administration.
Does anybody
or
have another
staff.
motion they'd like to
No,
provide for
I
this?
need to say that.
All right, I make a motion to approve it as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
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 Motion fails 3-4. Entertaining other motions.
I don't know if this is a motion, Mr. Byer, but I would like to see a plan for how we could implement UIL for non-enrolled students, just generally. What would that plan look like so that we can then take action and maybe reverse what we've done right now? Because I do care about the students.
We haven't done anything yet.
We voted against the, did we not just?
You voted against the approval of it as it's written in the.
So it stays the same,
so
correct?
Currently, it stays the same.
Right. And so what I'm saying is I would like the district to give us an outline of what it would look like if we were to leverage, allow non-enrolled students to participate in UIL.
Can I ask, what are you asking for the day-to-day operation?
I'm asking for
process?
what I asked for earlier.
Ms. Shelton, could you put your microphone on, please?
What'd you say?
Could you put your microphone on, please?
Yeah, I'm asking for what I asked Dr. Meiker for earlier. I feel like before we vote yes, and I think it probably eventually will be a yes, right? But what does that look like? What is the process? How is it working other places? So we can make an informed decision about how we put it in place for ourselves, what it looks like, what that communication is. I feel like, and I really do, and I hate to say this out loud, but like we have these short runways, and then we're asked to make a decision without being able to get all of our questions answered.
And so I guess what I'm having a hard time understanding is what it sounds to me like you're asking for is day-to-day operations. Is there something, so you keep talking about the community members that are opposed to this. What information do you think that they need to feel comfortable with it?
I think we need a communication plan would be one. I think we need to understand the process of what does it look like for a non-enrolled student to participate in UIL in our district. I'd like to know for those 3 districts that we've identified, what does it look like for them? What are the experiences? What are the best practices? If they've done it, actualize, what does it mean?
So that sounds like day-to-day operations? Like, what does it mean for them to participate? I guess that's
so
what I'm having a hard time understanding.
if you create a program, right? If somebody asked Dr. Micah right now about our cybersecurity, he wouldn't tell them about day-to-day operations. He would say, here are the lessons that we learned. Here are the best practices that we would suggest that you implement. Here are the success metrics of our students.
And that would be for something that's brand new, but we already have these activities.
You're asking me you're asking me what would he get from a Judson, a Tyler, a Wiley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying to you, and it's not day to day, it is if they're doing this now, they are collecting data. If they've got any SALT, they're collecting data, because then they can go and talk about this program and why it works. They can go and talk about the program and why maybe it doesn't work. But according to Ms. Villarreal, it works for Tyler. So they've got to have numbers. They've got to be able to say, these are the things that we did well when we implemented it. These are the things that we didn't do well when we. I bet you $5, Ms. Caldwell could say, listen, when we went to consolidate our schools, here are the things we learned. So talking to somebody else,
and that's
right?
That's
and that's
different.
what I'm asking for. If we're going to do this and go forward, I want to understand holistically what have been other people's experiences. That's one. That's the Judson, Wiley, Tyler, having that conversation. The other thing I want to understand is, what does this look like for us? Dr. Micah has said at least 5 times, people don't understand, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Okay, well, what are they? What are the misconceptions? What does that mean, right? In the law, he's talked about that. And how would we do this? He also said twice, look, and I believe it. Tracy, or he didn't say it to me, I think he said it to Mr. Byer, I don't have staff just sitting around to make a plan if you guys don't say yes, right? And Mr. Byer said, and I agree, yeah, but we kind of want to see what it's going to look like if we're going to do this. Those are the things I need. Do I think that this could work? Yes. And the reason that I'm not willing to say yes and then allow them to go forward and then create it and bring it back to me is my experience has been that we get it at the last minute or without enough time for me to say, okay, I like this, but not this. Can you give me more information? Because we're up against the deadline to vote.
And so I respect you and I hear what you're saying, but I don't think you've answered my question. So one of the things that you said is that you're not wanting to say yes because half of your constituents are opposed to this. And I don't hear in any of those things that you need to allow the district to move forward with making the plan that we want to see.
So I'm not willing to say yes because half the people don't agree. Half agree, half don't agree, right? It's a coin toss. What I'm saying is we need to be able to show everyone, the folks that agree and the people that don't agree, what it looks like. That's what we're missing.
And we have to give them authority to show.
No, they can make that plan because, like Ms. Villarreal said, they already, she said, Dr. Micah, I know that you already have a plan. You've already been thinking about it. He's strategic. If he's nothing else, he is strategic. So I want to see what's the plan, right? Where's the data? Because I think that's what we present to everyone, the people that are for it and that are against it, and we make our case for why this works. Because I do think it could be good for us. I really do.
And I absolutely agree. I absolutely think that it is an opportunity for us to be a step above and to open our facilities to our community even more so than we
absolutely.
do today. But I also think that we need to give the staff permission to utilize that time, utilize the resources to lay out the things that we need to take that step forward, because by not enabling that, there's so many things that they have to focus on, and I guess I'm having a really hard time understanding. We do this all the time. We vote for
and that's my problem is that we do it all the time without having a plan.
That's our job.
And no, that's not our job.
No,
our job is to
job
make sure that we understand the plan. And what I am voting against is saying yes to this without understanding the plan. And to your point, Ms. Landry, of enabling them, we can enable them without voting yes to this. We can say, we want you to go do this work, That's our job. We can say we want you to go do this work because this is something that we'd like to consider.
You've got to
That's our
understand,
job.
we would be, it's kind of like a trailblazer situation because very few districts have actually done this. This is something relatively new. And we've always prided ourselves on being forward-thinking and being able to think outside the box. That's one reason why we're actually getting out of the situation faster than what we can, we thought with that whole deficit thing.
Let me offer
So-
this. Let me offer this. I don't think we're going to get off center on this. I'm going to make a motion to deny the policy change as presented to us, and for the district administration to bring us their plan at a future meeting.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I'm making a motion to deny the policy as presented to us and direct the administration to bring us a plan at a future meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion passes 4-3.
So, Mr. Byer, may I just check with our legal counsel quickly? Mr. Lopez, by the law, is that going to suffice for action by the board?
They have denied, excuse me, they have denied based on that motion.
Okay.
The ability to participate. Essentially,
I just wanna make
what they're
certain
saying
that
is that
they
they are
acted. Correct.
saying that there's not going to be participation immediately, and that they're telling you to bring a plan to vote for the next
So
school
by
year.
the law, they've met the law?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the input and the discussion. We're going to go back to item 9, board business. A, possible action regarding school health advisory council member appointments. Y'all were provided the list. I think there have been some changes. I provided Ms. Turner a change this afternoon that I thought I had sent to her. Was everybody able to give her your member list at this point? Okay. And
Do
the
we
intent
need-
is to, I'm sorry?
Do we need to have the list to vote on it, or, because
So-
I did submit changes?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is it is up to each one of us to provide that to Ms. Turner. And what I would suggest is that we can go ahead and vote on it tonight. And then anybody you might need to add that you might be missing, we can catch that at a future meeting. And Ms. Turner, I would like to, at the next meeting, just provide the updated list wherever it stands at that point. So that way, the folks that we do have on that list and that we've given her changes for, that they can go ahead and start getting those people contacted and set up. So you, maybe more to your point, you don't necessarily have the current list in front of you right now. The list that was in our packet is a little bit off. So if everybody's comfortable with that, and we've given the changes to Ms. Turner, she can email that update to us this week, let's say. Okay. So with that, we have a motion to go ahead and approve the, do we have to make a motion? Guess so. Yeah, make a motion to approve the SHAC appointments as provided to Ms. Turner.
So moved. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item B, possible action regarding 2025 TASA TASB delegate and alternate. I don't even know who's all going. I think it's myself.
It's in Houston.
I don't know if anybody else is. Okay. Well, then I'll be the TASB delegate. And I'll be the alternate. Okay. No, there's no action that I'm aware of that we actually have to take. Is there on there? Okay. Well, Make a motion to approve me as the delegate for the TASB 2025 conference.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Second.
Second.
We'll go with Ms. Chigi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item C, discussion and possible action regarding board operating procedures. Mr. Lopez and I looked at this over the last couple of months, looking at trying to make sure that we are in line with any legal changes. We're supposed to review this every fall. We missed last fall. That was my fault. So trying to get caught up on getting these updates. I did have a couple of clerical errors that I missed in reviewing this before it went out. I don't know who's going to, or I guess I can record these and give them to either Mr. Lopez or you, Ms. Turner. So on page 3, under commitment to service, the very first bullet point in red, it had with particular attention to ensuring my work. It actually should be that my work. So yeah, page 3, commitment to service. The first bullet point, the last part of that sentence, there's a word that's in between ensuring and my, and it should be that. So we'll change it to that. Sorry, I had another. I'm trying to find. On page 14, it's under the section under public hearings and other community events. So on page 14, item 3, it says where appropriate and or legally required, we need to do a slash between the words and or. May have been how mine printed then. So under item E, public hearings and community events. Okay, it kicked to 14 on that. So item number 3 underneath E says where appropriate and or legally required. We have put a slash between and or. And then I think my last one, yeah, this is it. My last one is, it's under section 7 voting, item B4. So it's on either page 15 or 16. Number 4 on that, the very last sentence, the word favor is spelled incorrectly. Should be FAVOR. Anyway, that's all I have. Does anybody else have any questions or recommendations, comments?
I have one thing, and when I was looking at it on my computer at home, I was able to see the changes, but on the tablet, I can't see the changes, so I'm having a hard time finding it. One of the, and I believe it was under board member conduct, talks about the board members' representation of the district, and I would like to add in there that we are representatives of our community. I don't have I thought I would be able to pull it up with the markouts.
Was it in the section about misconduct by a board member?
Right, it was conduct by the board member, and it explicitly says that we represent the district. And I would like to add and community, or community and district.
Let's see.
We're not hired by the district, we're
Sure.
elected by the community, so I
Yeah,
want to
understandable.
It's probably in an earlier page. I thought I would be able to pull it up on this one. Sorry, let me see if I can find it. Do you have it where it's the marked out version? This doesn't open it with the marked out version. Misconduct, but board member. It's probably on page 17.
Page 17, you said?
That's where the misconduct.
Yeah, I was just looking there. I can't.
17? And if it's possible, I don't know, Mr. Lopez, is it possible for us to just request that you add anywhere that the policy indicates that we represent the district, that we also indicate that we represent the community? So
Yes.
do we need to find that paragraph in line? And
I can run a search and just make sure that it reflects that particular change.
okay,
Yeah.
is that okay?
Right at the beginning of where it says ethics for school board members, the top sentence says, as a member of the board, I shall promote the best interests of the district as a whole, and to that end shall adhere to the following ethical standards. Is that where you wanted?
I think there's two places, honestly.
Okay.
The other area in the misconduct section, it discusses the reputation of the district and or the board. I don't see where it says we represent the district, but yes, I mean, we can have
Yeah,
Mr. Lopez.
that's not a problem. I can
look
go
at
in
the
there and just
document.
indicate community as well as district.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
not an issue.
And I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
So we'll look through that. Yes, Ms. Thompson?
This is just a curiosity question. So when we're talking, where are we? Conduct, guidelines for hearing public comments during matters from the floor, which the question I have is on page 10, talking about time. At the very end, it says a total of 30 minutes will be allotted at each meeting for matters from the floor. Is that a legal requirement? Is that an arbitrary number we've decided upon?
That's an arbitrary number that the board decides upon. You have discretion to dedicate whatever amount of time that you want for matters from the floor, which is just sort of the general district business that you're used to. Obviously, if somebody wants to speak to an agendaized item, under the law, they are required to be given the opportunity to do so. But matters from the floor, you have the ability to dedicate a certain amount of time for your meetings for that purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not a legal requirement specifically.
What I would suggest is to allow us some flexibility to say a total of 30 minutes may be allotted at each meeting for matters from the floor instead of will. And then that way, if we run into a very tight agenda, we have the flexibility to do that. Since my time on the board, we've never done that. But I think allowing, by changing that from will into may, would at least allow that if we really have to keep something moving.
Did we not go over during consolidation? Lots of people talked.
That's what I'm saying is
that's an
that,
example
yeah,
of when we
and that would have been a potential agendized item.
Yeah.
And not
Right.
just matters from the floor. This is specifically about
This
matters
is
from the
right.
floor.
This is just your general period of time that you allot for folks to come in and talk to you about district business about which they have concerns or
Correct.
comments to make to you. Agendaized items, though, are going to be totally different because that you have to let people speak, however many decide to speak.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we still have the ability, we can't go less than a minute, but we have the ability
Right.
to adjust that time.
That's right.
For those, so.
Yeah.
Ms. Cox?
Yes, Mr. Lopez, can you just speak to, this is on page 22, under citizen or employee request complaint to the individual board member, A, just so I have a better understanding of that. So if a trustee receives a complaint, if you could just help me understand, the trustee must then notify the supervisors or the concerned complaint received immediately in accordance. So does that mean that if you receive a complaint, as the trustee, you're responsible then to forward that to the superintendent? Oh, sorry. So if you receive a complaint, not just a general email, a complaint or a grievance or a concern, you're then required to forward that to the superintendent.
Yes.
And then at what point are you allowed, or how are you allowed to be involved so you're not then needed to recuse yourself if that becomes a grievance or moves further up the chain? I
Well,
guess?
typically what would occur is that once you refer the complaint to the superintendent, the purpose is to allow the superintendent to look into it and to gather information and, if necessary, to take whatever actions that may be deemed necessary to address the concern, and then, of course, respond to you and say, this is what ended up happening, this is how it was handled. To the extent that you and or the entire board feel like more needs to be done or something needs to be addressed beyond that, then you can direct the superintendent to do so. But as far as involving yourself further, I would say that once you turn the complaint over to the superintendent, you kind of hang back and wait for the superintendent to gather the information, usually going through executive staff and whatever other staff may be important to be consulted, and then get that information back. But where you don't want to get involved is where probably the most important piece of advice I can give is don't make promises to anyone about specific outcomes, of course, because as an individual trustee, no individual trustee has the ability to promise a specific outcome. You could certainly say, look, I'm turning this over to the superintendent. The expectation is superintendent will look into it, but that's really the first step in the process. And as long as you sort of wait and ensure that that's being taken care of, then there wouldn't be a reason for you to recuse yourself. Recusal would only occur if you feel like anything that you're hearing, either you have a direct conflict of interest or you have a situation where you feel that you cannot be unbiased when you are considering that matter.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. If not, do I have a motion to approve the board operating procedures as presented with the corrections?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Chidgey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item 11, adjournment.